Go ahead. Yeah, I know. They're fun right now. They're fun. It's a good time of the year to start getting hot too. It's a shame that
last year.
I know. Closer? How's that? Better? It's a shame though. Like there was no shot in hell from the beginning that they were catching the Braves though in the division.
No.
But the thing with baseball and like in the playoffs, anything can happen.
Nola Wheeler.
Right.
2 out of 3. It doesn't matter.
As long as Nola doesn't completely shit the bed again. Yeah. I mean, like I still remember because the Phillies had a streak back when they won the World Series against Tampa in 08. Probably shouldn't have been there, but neither should Tampa. So, right. Then they lost to the Yankees in the World Series. Then the next year they lost to the Giants in the NLCS. Then they lost to the St. Louis Cardinals in the NLDS. So they just took a step backwards every year, and then they didn't make the playoffs for like a decade plus or whatever. But that time they lost to the Cardinals, I don't know if you remember this. It was a while ago, like 2011 or something. The Cardinals were like 8 games out with a month to go or something.
David Freese season.
Yeah. And if the Phillies either could break the record for most wins in franchise history in a season, and that would have eliminated the Cardinals. If they lost that game, just kind of threw it, the Cardinals are red hot, or win that game and the Cardinals have a shot to get in. Cardinals got in, probably didn't belong there in the traditional sense, and won the World Series.
Yep. It was incredible.
Or like the Royals. Year. What about the Royals?
The Royals, what is wild, mainly because that was just like Mike Moustakas put the team on his back, though. And then defensively, they were ridiculous that season. I think it was one of the better like defensive.
But what have they done since?
Nothing. They're a small market team, and what happens is you let people pay them Mike Moustakas money. You have Eric Hosmer, who went nuts in that series.
For sure. But I'm saying it's an anomaly.
Yes. Yeah.
But they happen all the time, just with different teams. So we'll see. Philly shouldn't have been there last year.
No, they should not.
Who knows?
How about that for a long intro? Hi, friends.
You know, what are you going to do? We're almost in September. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stochastic.com MLB Deeper Dive. I'm Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D on Twitter. You guys should be happy I'm talking baseball. I could be going on a tangent about this Jonathan Taylor shit, but I'm not.
Can you please? Because again, I've missed something. I've been busy all morning. We have construction going on at the house. I'm talking to contractors, had a meeting, had another meeting, and now I'm here. I get to talk some baseball. I'm excited. But what did I miss other than he's going back to the Colts, but he's not going to play or something?
Yeah, they're not activating him from the PUP, so he has to miss the first 4 games at least of the season.
Wow.
And they're not trading.
Now so that's the key part. They're not trading him. They're going to miss the first 4 games. That's not like an FU thing, is it? Are they going to try to like mend the relationship during the 4 weeks? Because he was hurt at the tail end of last year.
Yeah, but then this year he was like, well, it's the reports of me like my back hurting and not passing physicals and this and that. He said they were bogus. So I don't know.
Wow.
I think there's a lot we don't know about that too. I think there's still a lot, the dust hasn't settled there yet.
I had a really weird dream last night that I was in negotiations in a negotiating room as Jerry Jones talked to Dak Prescott about a new contract extension. And Jerry Jones was just like laying it out to him. And I was like, I woke up from the dream and I was like, I've never actually thought about what it would be like to be in the room and have those kind of conversations where it's like, hey, we don't actually believe you. We don't actually believe in you as the future of our football team. We're going to go Trey Lance's direction, something like that.
You had that. Was it like was it vivid?
Oh, it was very vivid. But I was like, I've never put myself in the position of like a sports agent or an athlete. Cause like Jerry Jones and Dak Prescott, we know who they are and we think about them. But have you ever thought about like just the two of them having a conversation?
Oh yeah.
Having a beer together about what they're going to do?
I was thinking about it today, actually. By the way, this is Eric Lindquist, at Eric Lindquist on Twitter. Say hello to him. And very happy to have Jordan Klein back in the saddle. Hope you had a great vacation, brother. Where'd you go again?
I went to an island in the Pacific Ocean.
Okay. You guys can decide. Yeah, you making those decisions of calling people in and being like, "Hey, we're letting you go." You know, it's not fun. I had a dream last night that Dustin Johnson died. That's weird.
Dustin Johnson?
The golfer?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I
I didn't know you were
watch...
like into golf like that. It was weird hearing you say Dustin Johnson.
Dude, I don't even watch golf.
Yeah, he didn't get picked for the Ryder Cup. He went 5-0 last Ryder Cup, and obviously Brooks Koepka was a shoe-in, but no other live guys. That is a wild one. That's
hit me at like 1:00. You know, sometimes later in the day you'll be like, wait, now I remember. That's odd. Yeah.
That's weird.
And I was pretty distraught about it at the time, but I don't think I would be if it really happened.
Pauline is single again. Oh, behave.
Anyway, that's not true. I mean, you don't wish death upon anyone.
No.
Hey, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Let's talk some baseball today. I honestly think we probably could have done this show in an hour because, I talked with Matt Bellman about it this morning. The pricing on some of these cheap pitchers makes absolutely zero sense today whatsoever, especially on a slate. It's like DraftKings goes, here, we know you want to play the Braves. We're going to make it real easy to play the Braves against Peter Lambert at Coors Field today.
Unreal. It is truly pretty egregious. I mean, there's some game theory that still exists here, but the fact that Reagans and Cobb make it so accessible for you to get to them, I think in cash, it's a pretty easy day to build out a cash lineup. You're going to be running into 1v1, 2v2s, but like this is tournaments. And I will say today is going to be very different than the show from yesterday, where I think I hit on absolutely everything. Had almost zero Kevin Gausman, ended up way higher on Blake Snell. Hamilton just went berserk, or Kyle Harrison. Sorry, Harrison had like 80% of him. He was a smash. And then Chris Williams, great to see him. Best MLB score last night. Dude, that's fantastic stuff. $50 super chat. Happy that everything worked out because it was a good night for me, but just MLB DFS didn't get all the right pieces together. Still 2x'd my money. I was happy with the night, but love seeing some of the screenshots last night.
Hell yeah, man. I expected Harrison to be good. We talked about it. I didn't expect him to be, what was it, 7 scoreless with 11 Ks or something?
91 pitches was kind of an outlier. I had him for 80. And I was going back and forth with this guy, Jesse, on Twitter, one of my buddies. He's he plays high stakes DFS, and he's just like, what a fish play. And I'm like, I thought the fish play was Woo, who got under 70 pitches, pitched great, 5 innings, 5 Ks, but like there was such a pronounced, like a very obvious pitch count that was going to exist for him.
Yep.
For him to be way more popular than that of Harrison was just crazy to me.
100%. Yeah. When they're basically in the same spot, and both of one of them is a 36% strikeout pitcher in the minors.
Yep.
Even if he drops 5% of that in the major league level, you're still talking hovering around the 30% K rate guy in San Francisco. I'm with you.
In San Francisco. I don't think people understand that part of it. And I think that was the argument I should have really led with. The PCL is a disaster. It is the hardest pitcher. It's the hardest pitching league.
It is the moon.
You can't tell.
It's the moon relative to baseball.
I call it the moon. I love that because I preach it all the time, where you don't know how good Brandon Pfaadt is coming up from the Diamondbacks. You don't know how good Harrison's strikeout stuff is going to translate. But when you can throw at altitude on the road and you have a 38% strikeout rate in those kind of situations, I'm pretty sure it's going to translate in San Francisco against the Reds.
Absolutely.
But anyway, Fun stuff. Nice to see your Phillies playing good ball. My Twins are playing good ball.
Yeah, they are.
Stuff's happening.
Twins made a nice little comeback for you yesterday after being down 4-0. It's good stuff.
Oh, I let the people know about that one. I let the people know on twitter.com.
I saw you with your manic all caps tweet last night. Don't worry. I saw you.
Whiskey's delicious.
I'm like, oh man, has Eric had a few?
I might have.
Yeah. Chris Williams. I'm kidding. Chris Williams, $50 super chat. You're the best, man. He's super chat us 100 earlier today as well. Any gifted 10 stochastic memberships on YouTube. Thanks, man. You're the best. This one for Eric. Again, thank you, good sir, for many of your takes last night. As Laffy knows, had my best MLB score last night, nearly $11,000. Your pitcher and batter takes were spot on. So yeah, 11K on the late slate for him. Late slate.
Dude, that's so great.
Congrats, so great. Chris. And glad the rest of you guys are with us. We're having fun. Time to dig into it. Some of these games.
Now we have an hour show. We crushed it.
You think that was an accident, brother? All right. 50 thumbs. We're at 50 likes already. All right. So some of these games, we not only that we can, but we should cruise through some of these games to spare the audience conversation that's, superfluous. What a good word, right?
I love it. I love it.
That's unnecessary, right? There's some of these games aren't going to need it, but we'll start it off with the White Sox in Baltimore. Grayson was nice last night. He felt a pretty solid pitcher. Put him in some good matchups too. He's going to look good.
Had a lot of him.
What did he finish with?
He had like 28, I think. I was sitting like right around 28. It was fantastic. And then to have him and Harrison be my two highest by far
awesome.
was fun. It was fun.
Dean Kramer, Jesse Schultz. I'm not sure we're going to see the same type pitcher performances tonight. Baltimore did drop 9 runs yesterday. It's just they only left the park once, but yeah, they put up 9 runs. This team can explode for sure. It's a matter of how do we want to get to them today? And unfortunately for you guys and for us as well, pretty much everything we talk about from a hitting perspective is going to be relative to the Braves in a sense. And everything we're talking about from a pitching perspective is going to be relative to how do you get to them over Reagans and Cobb and stuff if we're talking cheap. So Jesse Schultz and Dean Kramer, kick it off, man.
Yeah. So Jesse Schultz, this is a guy that actually on a different slate, I would have some interest in. This is shout out to Josh Engelman because he took the deep dart at trying to make Jesse Schultz kind of a thing on a previous slate. It was a short slate last Thursday, but I will say I went through some of his numbers last night and I was more impressed than I thought I would be from Jesse Schultz. He's a 6'4", big dude, kind of an unknown middle of the road type pitcher, but there are some signs where he can get the four-seamer curveball working off of each other, has a 29.6% whip percentage off of the curveball. I just think because of the quality of the matchups and some of these cheapies down here that he's not a guy that I'm looking to pivot to off of a Cole Reagans, off of a Alex Cobb. I just don't find it to be all that necessary today. I think if you're really going to go off the board off of a Jesse Schultz, I think you could go to like Ken Waldichuk, who's actually pulling some ownership. He's in T-Mobile. Yes, the Mariners are hot, but for all intents and purposes, it's still a great ballpark at 5,800. At 5,200, I don't need him or need to force anything sub 7K the way I did last time around, mainly because there's actual strikeouts upside in this range.
What about the bats then? If you're looking at Baltimore, their top stack percentage, similar to what we had yesterday, right? Like hovering around 6% in the top stacks. Atlanta was at 26%. They're at 26.5% today. Baltimore slight positive leverage here against Schultz. What do you think about this Orioles offense?
Yeah, so Jesse Schultz has some really weird numbers on the season. And I think this is kind of where I'm saying on a different slate, I would have interest in him. He's been awesome against lefties. Yes, the righty, Jesse Schultz, has been awesome against lefties, a sub 100 xISO. Against righties, he has a power problem, 215 xISO. But in this ballpark, we're talking in Camden Yards, whatever Orioles Park is what they call it now.
Orioles
in
Park
Camden
at
Yards.
Camden Yards, I believe.
Yeah. Adam, I'm sure Adam had something to do with that naming. He's like, let's put all these words together and make it have no sense. But Jesse Schultz, shout out to Adam. He was actually fantastic yesterday going at Jesse as well. But Jesse Schultz, he's lucky to be in this ballpark because righty power definitely is far more difficult to attain. So if he's going to keep lefties in check like this going forward, which I don't completely expect, but hey, he's done it so far this season in almost similar sample sizes. Has actually faced more righties than lefties on the season. I don't think it's necessarily a spot where I want to be jamming in Baltimore.
Any interest in White Sox?
Not really. Again, this is a game that we had a lot of interest yesterday in certain pieces. If you could have landed on the Santander home run, things of that nature, awesome. But I have more Dean Kramer interest. He was the pitcher we didn't talk about there. He's the 5th highest owned pitcher on DraftKings right now. I think on FanDuel, actually. Didn't talk a ton about FanDuel yesterday. Wanted to put a little bit more time into that one for the people. 8,800, 6.2% owned. I find him to be a really interesting mid-range option where he's a little bit more expensive than that of Cobb. And you obviously know going up against the White Sox, any time out, if you can get by the obvious bats, the Luis Roberts and things of that nature, you're running into a 23.6% K rate against righties, 82 WRC plus, one of the worst marks in baseball, actually tied for the worst mark with Colorado. It's never a compliment to be tied with Colorado on anything.
Not at all. Unless it's, what their ballpark allows and what you do as a hitter. But Washington and Toronto. All right. So Washington, Mackenzie Gore, you got the lefty going up against Jose Barrios, 8.5 run total. Toronto, pretty big favorites here. Barrios is 11% owned, 9% top 2 probability in the top pitchers tool, 8,800. This is kind of weird because when you're looking at salary, you have George Kirby against Oakland today. You have Steele against Milwaukee, Merrill Kelly against the Dodgers. That doesn't, do a whole lot for anybody. And then Jose Barrios at 8,800. So like there is kind of a range there. If you want to include Gavin Williams and Charlie Morton, fine. But where you pay up a little bit more and you just get far better spots than a Barrios, but he is getting 11% today. So he's not going unowned.
Yeah, I was curious what his ownership, I would say out of any pitcher working through the slate last night, doing the betting video into today, I was curious what Jose Barrios' ownership was going to be with the field because I've got him about 12% optimal, and that's exactly where the ownership's coming in at. So I do think he's appropriately owned. The question is whether or not people actually follow through with it because Washington, a 19.2% against righties, they're second best at avoiding strikeouts against that handedness, but you're not necessarily playing Jose Barrios for the strikeout upside. And I think investing in him at this spot, like at this kind of a price point, 8,800, he's sub 9K, so he's not quite in like that Steele range who's more popular. Pablo Lopez, who we will definitely spend some time on because I find him to be an interesting piece of chalk, well, not a piece of chalk, but an interesting tournament piece, as well as Corbin Burns. These guys are a lot more expensive. And if you're planning on playing Braves, which it seems like a lot of the field is today, as you probably should, I think you're probably going to be writing off guys like Barrios in this mid-range, Charlie Morton in this mid-range. So 11.3% against a strikeout spot where it's just going to be far more difficult. His strikeout stuff has gotten better this season from 19.8% last year to 22.8%. I'm not a big Jose Barrios fan, but I do think that there is a chance that he comes in a little bit under-owned compared to what we're currently projecting. And for that, just kind of, I don't want to call it a hunch or something, but he's just a pitcher that I'm going to be very sensitive to ownership as we get closer to lock.
Can we just skip over Mackenzie Gore, or are you interested? I mean, he has a 27% strikeout rate, but that's kind of where it begins and ends given this matchup.
It's a tough matchup. And, with the lineup construction here where you don't get, so when a righty faces Baltimore, you get Brandon Belt batting second there. He's not even in the lineup today. You do get Davis Schneider with a 29.2% K rate batting second, which is decent enough, but he's surrounded by Springer, Vlad Guerrero, Danny Jansen now moved up to the 4-hole. No Bo Bichette in the lineup also does make it a little bit more appealing there. He got put on the 10-day IL this morning. So for pure strikeout upside, Mackenzie Gore, 26.8%. I'm going to get to a little bit, but he's not going to be a 3 max priority. Probably wouldn't have him in 20 max. And then, in 150, I'm going to get to a couple of shares, but not a priority in any way, shape, or form.
How about bats for Toronto against Gore?
Yeah, Gore gives up power, so that's kind of an enjoyable.
1.63 home runs per 9, yeah.
Yeah, so 465 expected slugging, 44.3% hard hit percentage. David Schneider up there, 23.7 degree average launch angle. On 26 batted ball events. We'll see how he continues to develop. He's kind of an exciting player, although the exit velocity only 86.8 miles per hour off the bat on average. That puts him, below that mark of 90, 91. You really want to kind of be seeing Vlad Guerrero up to 93 for context. That's really, really good, but he's batting second. So that's never a terrible situation to run into. I do think that the top of this lineup, I'll get to like 2 and 3 mans, but I don't want to be playing Ernie Clement, Espinal, Kiermaier. And then you have the Kirk and Jansen batting 4th and 6th. It makes stacking not all that appealing. You kind of have to pick one of those two. On FanDuel, maybe would get to him a little bit more if I were playing over there today.
I'll tell you what, this next game's kind of weird. Houston and Boston, 10-run total. JP France, Brian Bayo. 2 guys that are, by no stretch bad pitchers. I know France just got blown up in his last start by Boston, but prior to that, he had been very good. Both of these teams getting a little bit of ownership, nothing significant, but if relative to 12 other teams or so that are just pulling 0 ownership, Houston's at 4.2 aggregate ownership for this stack. Boston's at 4.9. I mean, I guess the question really, 5.2. I guess the question comes down to this. Looking at the top stack probability, we have Houston and Boston at 3rd and 4th respectively. Is there any way that you can comfortably get there with the price on a lot of these guys, especially given that neither of them are facing just pure gas cans on the other side of the mountain?
Yeah. So yesterday, I don't want to necessarily call it a mistake, but I talked about this game at length where I said, Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez, those were guys I wanted to be over the field on. It ended up being Jose Altuve that you really needed to have involved in that stack. I had almost none of him. I would call that a little bit of a mistake. If I'm going to be overweight to two very contrarian pieces that are expensive and similar to those builds I had for Braves, and I just basically transferred in a 2% owned Houston piece in resolve of them, I should have had some Jose Altuve. That being said, I have far more interest on the Boston side today than I do for the Houston side. We'll go through JP France here just because this righty power he's giving up is a thing. A 238 expected ISO against righties. He's only a 102 expected ISO, yet another reverse splits pitcher. You know, we covered that there in the White Sox game with Schultens. Same thing exists here with JP France, where I have more interest in some of these righties. I'm going to play a lot of them. And then because of the quality of the lefties, Verdugo, Yoshida, Rafael Devers, I'm still going to piece them together in stacks. I have a lot of interest. Brian Bayo, he has a superpower. It's north of a 55% ground ball rate. I do think that the upside is still there for a Houston team, but whereas yesterday I was 3-4x the field on Alvarez, on Tucker, just stupidly left off Altuve, and that kind of capped my night for the evening. I definitely want to be overweight to the Boston side this time around.
And not the Houston side?
Yeah, it just feels like a team that I'm going to be chopping. They have an 8.2% top stack percentage. They have pretty much flat ownership share. I mean, flat leverage going across for it. But Boston, we've got them with a 6.1% top stack percentage. And then I look at some of the individual ownership for some of these hitters. And then there's just like a glaring weakness there for JP France, where he's facing those righties with a 238 expected ISO. That is a massive, massive number in a ballpark that plays up for offense. And then I look at the Houston side where, again, Bayo, 181 expected ISO against lefties. So he's got the normal splits there, but the ground ball rate just makes it tough for me to imagine that outside of just keeping the line moving, or him just running into a walk problem, which he's never had, a 6.4% walk rate, didn't have a walk problem last year, even when he struggled. Just don't find myself landing on Houston.
So we got 3 down, 9 to go here. We're going to start getting into some interesting stuff coming up. I mean, you guys already know where we're heading with a lot of these games, but Texas and the New York Mets, let's cover this one. Andrew Heaney, Jose Quintana, 8.5 run total. Texas minus 142 on the money line in New York. So Andrew Heaney does have some strikeout upside, but I go back to the same thing. I mean, how often do we get there when he's similarly priced to some of these other cheap pitchers? 9.1% ownership. So, you know, it's not exactly like he's just one of these 0% owned guys. He's kind of an enigma when it comes to pitch. Like, he could look great or he could be out by the 3rd inning. His K rate is down considerably from last year, oddly enough, at 24%, but it's still slightly above average. Do you like him at all at this price against the Mets today?
I love him. I have a ton of Andrew Heaney today. I think he's one of the better tournament pivots today. He's 9.1% owned, so he's not exactly unowned. We've got him with the top 2 percentage right around 6.9%. But there's a couple of things that just kind of make sense to me. If you look at his last couple starts here, he's been limiting lefties like crazy, but there's obviously bust potential there. A 242 expected ISO against righties, but he's got a 28.4% K rate of against them in his last 3 starts. You look at his last 6 starts. Yeah, again, 25.5% K rate there against righties. And it just seems as though the K rate has trailed up. And then you look at this specific lineup here for the Mets. You do have Nimmo lefty. You have McNeil lefty. They're not exactly shying away from that. But then look at the bottom half of this lineup. You have Mark Ventos, 30.8% K rate. Danny Mendick, 24.2%. Jonathan Araz, 25.4%. Tim LaCostro is horrible, 25.9%. He's fast as shit, though, for those who have ever seen him pinch run. But that is an atrocious bottom half of the lineup, far worse than most things that they're rolling out on a day-to-day basis. I like the Mets lineup when they face righties. You at least get DJ Stewart, who's doing inexplicable, ridiculous things. Talked about that a bit yesterday. And Daniel Vogelbach also getting removed from this lineup. But as a lefty starter against this specific bottom half of the lineup, you get 2, maybe 3 times through that order. I think there's a ton of upside at just 9%.
Jordan, people saying ads just happened midstream on the show.
Yeah, it just happened for me. It was so weird. Yeah.
We can probably turn that off for the live streams. I have YouTube Premium, so I don't see them. But yeah, let me know, because that's unnecessary for sure.
Jordan Klein gets back from vacation. We need ads to pay for it. Was the Four Seasons that pricey?
Yeah. Yeah, the ad rev on a live deeper dive with no shelf life, man. That's really
sorry. I didn't mean to, no.
Yeah, no, that's weird. But anyway, is that not, I guess that hasn't happened before with anybody.
Never happened before. First time ever.
I would not be able to live without YouTube Premium personally. I just use YouTube far too often.
I just got YouTube TV for the house. Is there a way I can link that up? Because I just bought like the Sunday ticket and all that stuff. That's why I got it.
Like you'd have to buy Sunday ticket still.
Yeah.
You don't just get,
yeah.
I have YouTube TV.
I just bought the YouTube TV though. I can't link that to premium.
What do you mean? They're different.
Because I bought YouTube TV. Am I able to get YouTube Premium at like a discount for that or no?
I don't. Because I have YouTube Premium and I have YouTube TV, but I don't think they offered a discount on it. If you do it, make sure to do it. If you're getting YouTube Premium, go straight through YouTube and not through the App Store, because one of them's like $20 a month and the other's $15 a month, which is ridiculous.
Like the Twitter Blue thing. Yeah.
No, I know. He was asking if there's a discount on it. But no, there isn't. It's like $15 a month. It's worth it. If you like listening to YouTube, put your phone in your pocket and stuff and not getting ads. But yeah, we'll see what we could do. We should be just able to take that off. Anyway, I like your thinking on Heaney today. It makes sense. At least you're attacking a guy that can get strikeouts and has that upside. Like there's nothing.
I will say I didn't have a lot of interest this morning as I was working through that projected lineup. It just came out far worse than I was expecting. And when I updated the sheet, I mean, those are 5 really strikeout prone bats at the back half of this lineup. And he gets left on left, Nimmo and McNeil at the top of it. So like some of the more difficult hitters that you're dealing with, the 1 through 4 there, just like most teams, but Nimmo, Lindor, McNeil, Alonso, you get by those 4. It's kind of smooth sailing. Like Alvarez, he's got the power. He can definitely hurt you, but I do think that it's a really under-owned spot here for Heaney for what that strikeout potential could be.
For sure. Then you just have to hope that like Heaney can be good Heaney and not very, very bad Heaney.
Or you could just play both sides of it in 150, because then nobody loses, right?
Well, given that Mets lineup, though, do you like the Mets here against him?
Same thing as with Houston yesterday, where it's just a couple of pieces there. I like getting to Lindor. I like getting to Alonso. They can win their position on any specific slate. They make really good 2-mans and 5-2-1s. They make a decent 3-man combination. I don't hate getting to Alvarez there, but I do think looking at the back half of this lineup, I have virtually no, like Tim LaCastro, if he gets on base, he can steal just about against anybody, especially with the new rules. So interested to see how that translates for him, but God, is he a bad hitter. He is so bad. Him and Danny Mendick are just atrocious. Jonathan Araz is just awful as well. 25.6% hard hit percentage so far this season, 187 expected batting average, no hit tool whatsoever. So I am far more inclined to just play pieces of that lineup. But give me Texas, considering nobody wants to play them. And Quintana's been good, but this is a Texas team that against lefties, a 123 WRC plus and not going to get clicked on at all. I'll take some shots.
Yeah, I was a little surprised to see Quintana getting north of 13% ownership today. I know that he's cheap. I get that, right? But 17% strikeout rate. To be fair, too, like he's 3 of his last 4 matchups have been Atlanta, Baltimore. So it's not exactly like he's had the easiest of spots, the easiest, strikeout spots or like power limiting spots. So I get it. But he has another pretty tough matchup here against Texas.
Yeah. It's I get why people are doing it. It feels somewhat like he's been decent enough and he's been pretty darn good to the point where you kind of feel secure with it. But I am a little bit confused too, other than price, because he's 6,300 on a slate where the Braves are infinity dollars to be able to afford in your lineups. You now have Matt Olson there that at 6,900 against a righty this time around. He is an absolute priority. You bring Austin Riley, Ronald Acuna, all these guys that we'll talk about later. They're yet again going to be crazy popular. How do you get a little bit different off of Reagans and Cobb? You go to Quintana and you just kind of hope one of those two fails and you're going to bypass them in tournaments with another pitcher that's in that range. I wouldn't say, the word is not prefer. I am landing on Ken Waldichuk at 5,800, but I do think Ken Waldichuk probably has better strikeout stuff in this spot against Seattle than Jose Quintana does against Texas. And so that's just kind of leading me to roster up the Texas Rangers, because I think they're going to be a really nice tournament target if we're getting as much leverage. I think 3.2% leverage, the second highest owned or second most leveraged team in the top stacks tool today. I am very, very bullish on this team today.
We had a question from Andrew Martinez. Which players would you prioritize in a Texas stack?
So couple of the main ones. Let me just pull this up here so I can tell you who I have the most of. Corey Seager, left on left. Don't shy away from it. 639 expected slugging. Adolis Garcia, anytime you're facing a lefty. Mitch Garver, anytime you're facing a lefty. And then Robbie Grossman, anytime you're facing a lefty. I know he's a switch hitter, but he is pretty much only useful as a righty. So Robbie Grossman is a cheapie there. And then the bottom half of the lineup, Duran, Tavares. I love getting to those guys. They make stacking up this Texas team really fun in tournaments because you know you're getting upside from them. Duran, 44.2% hard hit percentage. Tavares, 43% with a 267 expected batting average on the season. And both of them have wheels. So you get some steal upside at the turnaround there. Simeon, Seager, Lau, Garcia. I would say priorities. Number one, Mitch Garver because of positionality. 2, Garcia for upside, and Grossman 3 for value.
Okay. Hey, football season's almost upon us, friends. I know you like baseball. If you're sitting here in August, late August, you either just truly love DFS or you truly love baseball or both. But I would say, what percent of people in here, Eric, and look, honestly, you don't even need to like football, but what percent of people that are here today do you think are going to be playing football every Sunday, every Monday night, every Thursday?
98%.
You think so?
It's a big number. I would say there may be 10 people out of the 544 watching right now that are not going to play any NFL DFS.
All right. I would think so too. I would say like easy 95+%, right?
Yep.
If that is the case, you should be keeping your eyes out for every promo that these sports books are throwing at you right now. When football approaches, the red light turns to green with a lot of these. And they legitimately just go, all right, let's get people in the door. Like we already know, this is the thing, right? Most of you guys are on FanDuel already. Probably all of you on DraftKings already. The market cap in the betting space combined, FanDuel and DraftKings, is like 80% or something. It's insane, right? I don't know the exact number, Eric, but it's around there. It's like
close.
80%. FanDuel at one point was 50. I think now it's like 45 and 35 or something, 45 and 30. FanDuel. Point being, a lot of these other sites are going, all right, how do we compete? Well, we give out better promos than the others. Caesars right now has a bet 50, get 250 in bonus bets. It's an awesome one. And it's not bet 50 and if you lose, you get 250. It's bet 50 and even if you win your bet, so it wouldn't matter if you were getting this promo anyway, you also get 250 through the link in the description. Click it there. Click it in the comments where Jordan just threw it in. You sign up. It takes a minute. Deposit. Throw a $50 bet on anything. Hell, you want it to be for football, or you make one now so you can get all of the bonus bets and have them lined up for football. That's a beautiful thing as well. Take advantage of it. This goes away quickly. They don't run these through the whole season. Even if you don't love sports betting, if you're in a legal state, you love free money. You take advantage of it. Caesars bet 50, get 250 is a great one. Also, if you're clicking that link and you have an ad blocker on, turn your ad blocker off, because I ran into an issue with that earlier today. Something weird with Caesars, the way that works. But it's free money. You're 5Xing out of the gate. Not only that, you could still win your bet and then turn it into something nice. And then you've got a nice little windfall coming, $250 on top of that. So it's a good one, man. It is a good one. If Caesars is in your state, take advantage, sign up, get every free money spot, every promo you can take advantage of. All right. Oh, nice, Jordan. He put a poll up there. Will you be playing NFL DFS this season with 94 to 6% right now? Yes. 94 to 6%.
I was going to say, and again, the 6%, I understand that maybe football isn't your sport. You could be Josh Engelman. I have to let you know, though, there is going to be a ton of money week one. If you just look at some of these contests, it gets me really, really excited. Last night I was, getting ready for bed, and I just sat there. I was in a transcendental state thanks to my friend, Mr. Jordan Klein there. And I was just piecing together Justin Herbert stacks. I was piecing together how I wanted to stack up Justin Fields week one, how I'm looking at my Kirk Cousins stacks with, looking at Justin Jefferson and all of these guys going up against Tampa Bay and who I want to run back. Do I want, Rashad White? And thinking about DFS, it's so different getting from like your best ball drafts. And then I know a lot of us have year-long drafts this weekend. It's going to be crazy how much DFS stuff there is available. And then you want to take advantage of as many of these promos as possible, just so that you can build that bankroll, sustain that bankroll throughout NFL, because they're going to take away a lot of these promotions coming up later. So take advantage week one, whether or not you think, even if you're like 1 or 2%, invested in week one, just have those free bets waiting in the wings.
For sure. Yeah, I was checking out like Owner's Box, seeing if I could, with the Superflex, seeing if I could build 2 Justin Herbert lineups. Very much impossible, dude. Because it's 2 flex. It's 2 flex and a super flex. There's still 9 roster spots, $50,000 salary cap. And yes, like the salaries of the players are lower than they would be on like DraftKings. But the problem is you don't get the cheap defense for 2K that you can play because there's no defense. You're just plugging in flex, like actual players. It's fun though, man. I can't wait. Anyway. Cleveland and Minnesota, Gavin Williams, Pablo Lopez. Pablo Lopez is a very good pitcher, but he's getting 5% because he's also very expensive and he's facing a team that doesn't strike out often. We kind of talked about this yesterday with Minnesota pitching and Kenta Maeda. He got knocked around early on anyway, but what about Pablo Lopez at almost $11,000?
Yeah, I'm going to be overweight to this. This is overreaction. So yesterday you saw Kevin Gausman, which I vehemently disagreed with the ownership, 25%, 30% on that slate. And then you had Blake Snell there as well. I preferred the Blake Snell for $400 less, but you got him and Burns up there today. You don't have anybody north of 11K. You get at least, I would call it a little bit of a discount off of them. Nobody's north of 11K. You've got him at 10.8. You've got Corbin Burns at 10.6. Clayton Kershaw's there at 10.2, where we have positive leverage on him. I'm probably not going to get there even against Arizona. Tough strikeout matchup, hot conditions in LA, and you have pitch count concerns for him the rest of the way here. I'm just going to be far more invested in the Lopez side of this one. Cleveland, they are very difficult in terms of strikeout matchup, but Pablo Lopez has struck out righties to the tune of a 33.4% K rate this season, 25% against lefties. Obviously, it's Cleveland and they're going to try to roll out as many guys as they can from that left side. But I just updated here for their actual lineup. Stephen Kwan, Cole Calhoun, Jose Ramirez, Andres Jimenez. There you go. Those are your lefties. You still have 5 righties hanging out there. Oh, I guess Bo Naylor's down there as well, lefty. But 4 righties. That's a decent enough floor here for Pablo Lopez and his upside. And then you take into account that some of the stacks I'm just getting different with today that aren't the Braves tend to be cheaper stacks. I'm not finding it that hard to get way over 5.3%. We have them with an 18.2% top 2 percentage. This feels like just a great tournament target. Whereas yesterday, because of the way the pricing worked out and because of, just the nature of that slate, I thought that there was kind of an upside there. To go way cheap and just play Braves. I have a couple of reasons I won't be playing the Braves to the same amount this time around, and it's just leading me into more Pablo Lopez builds.
Okay. Look, he's very good. He's just very expensive. That's the only thing. On the other side of this one, Gavin Williams. Gavin Williams' price has come up when he debuted. What was it, like 2 months ago or something? He was 5,700. He's up to 8,600 on DraftKings now. He's pitched pretty well. He's had a few really strong games, but aside from that, I mean, he has been good. There's no denying it, but it's a tough matchup against Minnesota. You're paying, a mid to high 8K price point for him. Any interest at all in Gavin Williams today?
I love Gavin Williams. He's my absolute boy. When he got called up, I was really, really excited because he has a fastball that I thought would play live immediately. He's had a 56.2% usage of it. It is plus, 27.7% whiff percentage, 20.7% put away percentage. He took everything he was doing with that pitch in AAA, and he just made it immediately impactful here at the big league level. My problem here, though, is that he still has a 4.25 expected ERA. And even though he's got a 5.2% barrel percentage, there are just some guys in this Twins lineup who can make your life a little bit difficult. Hey, Minnesota, that was my contrarian stack yesterday. Really, really liked him. I'm not going to go as far as to say that I want to be stacking them too much against Gavin Williams. He's got just a 168 expected ISO against lefties and a 119 expected ISO against righties, but he's still somebody that I can get a Matt Wallner, get to a couple of pieces from these Twins. So we haven't really gotten to any of the teams that I have a ton of 5-man interest in. I have a couple of them from the Twins side. Don't want to say that I don't, but Gavin Williams, as much as I like him, it's just a really hard spot to be landing on him today on this slate at 8,600.
Any bats on either side? Two good pitchers.
Yeah, I'm not going to be going Cleveland. If you get to Jose Ramirez, that's never a bad thing. I'm not going to besmirch that ever. But pretty much zero Cleveland interest against Lopez. Pablo Lopez isn't popular. Like if he were popular, that'd be a different conversation, the way that Gausman was popular yesterday. But I'm looking at the Minnesota side. If you get to Max Kepler, if you get to Matt Wallner, not upset about either one of those. Royce Lewis now batting 6th, coming off of the Grand Slam and batting higher in the order yesterday. Don't completely understand that, but it is what it is there. Edward Julian just ends up way more popular than you think he's going to be every single slate. He's kind of defied logic with an 856 OPS this season, 285 average. I have no idea where he came from, but that's always ends up being like a popular one-off. Yesterday, it ended up being Caballero from the Mariners. If anybody saw that come through on the main slate, where it's like, what happened with this ownership? That's also going to be Julian, I think, in this spot at 3,500. So probably going to be hitting eject on playing more of him or anything. But if you get to some pieces, specifically those outfielders, don't hate it.
What do we got? 6 down? We got 6 down? 5 down.
Perfect time.
5 down. We'll be okay. Be all right.
Oh, fly.
7 to go. Where are we at as far as I got 124 likes. Yesterday we crushed 200. I think we finished with like 220. So that was strong. We got over 600 people watching with us. Some people just dying to atone for their sins here, wipe that slate clean and feel better about themselves. But yeah, no, in all seriousness, if you haven't done so, take a second. It helps us greatly. We appreciate you in advance. Let's see if we can rocket this north of 200 today on a 12-game Tuesday slate. Hey, San Diego and St. Louis, Seth Lugo, Zach Thompson. Just looking at ownership here, looking at top 2 probability on DraftKings. Lugo getting around 3%. He's just under 8K, 8.7% top 2 probability. So there is some leverage there. Thompson getting 1%, 5,600. I mean, he's dirt cheap, but that's about where it begins and where it ends for Zach Thompson.
Yeah, that's about all the time that we needed for him. Seth Lugo, if you run into a couple shares, fine. Zach Thompson, we've seen some K stuff here early on. 30.6% K rate against righties, 25.5% against lefties. But I don't think either of these guys on this slate are guys that I'm starring, highlighting, need to get into my lineups.
91% say they will play NF. Someone said the 9% no is just Josh Engelman burner accounts.
He went into ChatGPT and he made a bot.
Yeah. I don't know
as
why
many as he can.
It's so fun to talk about. But yeah, no, we'll move this forward.
We should put him on live before lock this year. That's what I think.
That'd be
give him a 75-minute show of just while EPL is on too. That made me so happy.
Are you going to do the matchup show with me?
I would love to.
Did Greg talk to you about that? Because I told him
Nope.
when I was like, put Eric on it. That'll be I think now that Matt's no longer with us and he's doing some great stuff out there in the industry, I'm happy to
definitely
see
go
that.
check him out.
I say, let's get Eric on. I think it'd be a great show. It's a marathon matchup show. It's a long one, but it is a fun one. Like, it's a one-stop shop all week. Like, if you don't have time to watch throughout the week, come watch the marathon show every Thursday at 10 a.m.
Well, I think this will be fantastic too, because I know that you and myself, we're both going to be covering the entire slate from a betting perspective. And so It would be awesome to both cover it together from a DFS perspective. I think that would be really fun.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Fire it up. Who needs Greg to make these decisions?
Yeah. Well, he had asked me. Who do you want on this show? I was like, let's get Eric on there. I think that'd be a good pairing for sure.
Love it.
Any bats from this game? San Diego or St. Louis? I mean, with pricing in mind,
I'm kind of torn because, again, Zach Thompson does have decent enough strikeout stuff, but I do expect that this is going to regress in a pretty meaningful way. Everybody wants to talk about the Padres suck. The Padres suck. They do suck, but they have some bats at the top of this lineup that make it tough to pull the trigger. And I do like the Garrett Cooper piece thrown there in the 6 hole. And Matthew Batten, you're at least getting some savings. And then Luis Camposano, decent enough 45% hard hit percentage from a catching option. I kind of like stacking up San Diego here. They're on the road. It's not a game where anything should be prioritized. Interesting Cardinals lineup with Richie Palacios now leading off. What a time to be alive. They now have Nolan Gorman against righties. He's going to be batting 3-hole there in between Goldschmidt, Arenado. You get Contreras, Burleson, O'Neill now batting 7th, and Jordan Walker there can be some upside stuff. It just seems like a spot where I should have interest in something, but this whole game kind of feels like a little bit of a write-off to me. Have a couple of shares of the Tatis Machado Soto combination there from the Padres. Have some 5-mans of St. Louis, which is a little bit interesting. I didn't even know that I had those building out before the show, but nothing is a priority in this entire game.
Milwaukee and Chicago, 7-run total in this game. You don't see those very often anymore.
Oh, yeah.
You really don't.
I like the under, too.
Do you? Well, yeah.
Yeah, it was at 7.5 and moved to 7.
Yeah, it did. Corbin Burns, Justin Steele, 2 good pitchers. I would assume wind is not blowing out at Wrigley Field today.
It is not. That is a correct assumption.
That would be my assumption. 18 miles per hour blowing in.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, so you already have 2 good arms. You have the wind at Wrigley working to their advantage. Let's talk about these guys because, again, pricing's always going to come into play. Steele's getting almost 20%, really, $9,500. We can talk about him, too, in relation to guys like George Kirby because he's got the Oakland Athletics at 3.2 run implied total, very low, 3.2 or 3.4 total for Milwaukee. The problem you run into, and feel free to hit this from all angles, Eric, problem with Corbin Burns, he's 10,600, and it's 2.9% ownership. Do you think this is potentially a leverage spot for him? Start with him or Steele, wherever you want. It's an interesting game.
So I'm in love with pitching in this one. That should be self-aware. It's hard not to. And as you said, the pricing is kind of what's making it very interesting what's happening with my lineups. I like Corbin Burns more. There's no doubt about it. 10-6, 2.9% owned. But I have more Justin Steele because the 9,500 goes further. And I'm not just talking about Brave stacks. I'm talking about some of these other stacks coming up later that we'll discuss that I have a ton of interest in, highlighting starring the Dodgers, by the way, for what it's worth. I'm going to be targeting them against Merrill Kelly this time around, even though Merrill Kelly is my dude. Again, you got to kind of keep a short-sighted approach when it comes to MLB DFS. But like, I am absolutely friends going to be getting to Justin Steele is my highest owned pitcher. Like, I don't think there's going to be any change for it. Milwaukee is going for 10 straight. I don't care. The wind's blowing in. You got a near comparable strikeout rate here. 1.5% less than that of Corbin Burns. And then Milwaukee's got a 24.5% K rate against Southpaws on the season, just a 95 WRC plus. I think preventing run creation is something Justin Steele's already good at. I mean, I like the over. I don't know if I've made a pitching outs bet all season long, but 18.5 was the number, and I am way on the over of that for Justin Steele. Love him in this spot. Love Corbin Burns too, but the price makes it a little bit more difficult, and I do prioritize Pablo Lopez just because of his opportunity and his spot. A little bit more than that at Corbin Burns, but it's not hard to get to 9% and be 3x Corbin Burns at that kind of ownership. But Justin Steele right now, I have 46% of. He's just a pitcher that I think you can make work with Brave stacks or expensive Dodgers as a contrarian stack if you're going my route with it. But I am very in love with the price point and the ballpark and the way that everything is kind of set up for him here.
What you say? 18.5 was the outs prop?
Yeah, 18.5.
So you need one out into the 7th inning.
Yep.
Okay.
In love with it.
Yeah?
Yep. I don't think I've made one of those bets all season long either. It's the first time that it's showed up for me all year, but the over is plus 150.
Oh, those can be fun bets though, because sometimes there's just spots where they're facing a team where you may not expect a ton of strikeouts. You might not need them, but they can work efficiently, against the team that doesn't walk a ton, that's impatient, doesn't draw a lot, doesn't work a lot of deep counts. It's definitely an interesting bet. I don't make them often either, but when you find a good one, they definitely stand out.
Yeah. Justin Steele here against Milwaukee. Again, the strikeout rate is up there as well. The wind blowing in helps for what I think that upside is. I read it. He's an absolute asshole, an absolute trash human being. Absolute trash. It's all right. I love you too. But actually,
that was funny.
It was fun. I saw it. I clocked it and I was like, how am I going to give actual analysis in this next 30 seconds?
Is that what you smirked at while I was talking?
I did. I saw it. I laughed, but then I was just like, shit, I have to talk now. Cool.
Oh man.
This is so this flag, this is the Clint Eastwood. It's called the Clint. It's a golf tournament where they have Scotty Cameron putters, like the famous putter maker who makes putters individually for that event. It's one of the biggest member guest events of the year. And one of my best friends lives up in the Salinas area. And it's just one of those spots where it's just it's the most magical place ever. Are you giving me a smoothie as I'm sitting here? Okay. I just got a smoothie delivery while I'm on a stream. Apparently,
you don't even say thank you.
Love you. Thank you. Anywho, I didn't know what was just happening. That was so nice of her. But also I didn't know what was happening in that moment. But anyway, the Clint Eastwood, it's a fantastic.
It is an odd time to deliver a smoothie.
Yeah, I'm literally talking with a microphone, a light, and everything on, and she just hands me a smoothie. Okay.
Is she trying to tell you something?
It's not very nice. I did go to the doctor.
Anyway,
I got about 5 lbs I could shed.
The Clint Eastwood.
The Clint. It's a beautiful golf tournament.
Finish.
No, I don't think I can. What is happening? I don't know, Jake. I'm just getting freaking murdered by Josh on stream. I'm getting handed smoothies. I don't know. But it was a fantastic golf tournament.
A beer?
Yeah. Yeah, buddy. Let's go.
Sorry, go ahead.
Hey, lady.
Yeah. And a turkey sandwich.
For free.
Where are we at? Where are we? Other than off the rails, where are we at?
Off the rails, I don't know. Josh, just San Diego, St. Louis, talked about them. Milwaukee, Chicago, you didn't move the bottom bar. We just talked about them. I have no interest in bats in that game next. Pittsburgh, Kansas City. Let's get to my highest owned stack.
I assume you won that tournament?
Got second.
Awesome. I would hang that too.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
13 under for 3 days. Decent work.
Wait, what does it say down there?
So Burbank Men's Club.
Oh,
that's where I played out of. So it has the club that you're a member of underneath on the flag.
But it could be mistaken as Brokeback Man's Club. That's why. No. I'm saying Josh didn't just pull that out of thin air. He didn't. No, it did. It's nothing. I'm just saying. I thought he pulled it. It's even funnier that. All right. Let's. Jordan, is that you doing that to his camera?
No, just
all right.
It's fine. We're back.
Where are we at on bats for this game? If anything.
Nothing. I have no bats. Zero bats. I don't have a single bat. I don't have a single share from this game in bats.
Pittsburgh, Kansas City. Then we'll do Atlanta, Colorado. And I want to run the lineup generator to see, because earlier in the day, we were getting a lot of Atlanta. Obviously, a lot of Reagans. Obviously, a decent amount of Cobb. So now that we have more updated projections, and ownership. That'll be fun to look at and see what our exposures are. But let's talk Pittsburgh and Kansas City. Luis Ortiz, Cole Reagans. The pricing on Cole, I'm not even going to get into I'm not even going to dive. You can, if you want, feel free. I'll say this one. The pricing here is egregious. Like, Reagans is good, and he has legitimate strikeout upside. You would think that he was at this price, that he was going up against the Dodgers, or the Atlanta Braves, or even the Red Sox, but he's going up against Pittsburgh. They might not be the K heaviest team in the league, but he's going up against Pittsburgh in a stadium that I know you had mentioned before, like triples are pretty frequent there, but really suppresses home runs too. Yeah,
it suppresses home runs, but this is a all Kansas City everything game for me. I don't love the fact that I have as much Cole Reagans as I have. I'm a little bit over the 33.9%. He's not quite as high owned as Justin Steele is for me, but it's a 6K Cole Reagans, and I was just trying to make sense of why they did this to us, why they put a 6K. It's just a bad price against Pittsburgh. It is what it is. And if you want to get to some Pittsburgh, I don't completely hate it. But 319 expected slugging this season, 277 xWOBA, but along with that 28.7% K rate. If he's not walking guys, he's a really, really solid lefty. He was a highly touted prospect. Took him, a couple years. He came into the league pretty young, 2016. He's only, 25 years old? 3.16 expected ERA this season in a larger sample size than we had last season, where he had a 4.78 expected ERA. He continues to get better. The numbers look awesome since he got called up, and I just don't see any reason that you wouldn't have shares of him. Now, the question becomes for me, do I want to play him in my big lineup? Do I want to find a path off of him? I think the answer is going to end up being no for me. You look at our top pitchers tool, 29.1% top value percentage. That's nearly 10% better than Zach Thompson, who's number 2, pulling no ownership, by the way. Luis Ortiz in this very same game. Again, neither of those are very interesting options to me. He's like the one piece of chalk sub 7K that I'm just going to play a lot of.
Listen, you have to put notifications on for Adam Schefter if you're in the space that we're on. But sometimes I wish I could. I had to turn off Rappaport notifications.
That's understandable.
But the Schefter one, like Giants, he's like Giants name and then list 10 players as captains. Absolutely. Who cares? Who cares?
Tell me, hey, Bailey Zappi getting cut. I didn't see that happening. I just pulled up my notifications here in the last however long. Who else is a backup in New England?
That is odd because remember he actually played in the right. He did end up it was Chicago, right? Where Mac Jones got hurt, Bailey Zappi came in. Yeah. I thought he would for sure. I thought Bailey Zappi would for sure.
Where did that come from? I just clocked that now, and I don't know when you said the notification thing, but
yeah, no, it's weird. I thought he would at least be on the team for sure.
Yeah. Matthew Slater, Patriots cutting Bailey Zappi is surprising to a lot of us. Yeah, no shit. They're just making sure Mac Jones feels comfortable because he's a little pansy or what?
Wait, what other quarterbacks are on the roster?
That's what I was wondering. It was a piece of news I didn't expect to see and clock at that moment in time.
That's funny.
What?
No, and I just pulled the depth chart up. It's just Mac Jones.
Unreal.
That's did they cut the guy? What about the guy? I can't remember his name. The one that was the highest paid.
Are they going to go get Brian Hoyer off the couch again? What are they doing?
Maybe. The one guy was the highest paid undrafted free agent in NFL history. Undrafted rookie free agent. And
wow.
They signed him. He used to be a receiver, and they were going to try and turn him into a quarterback. I don't know. That's funny. That's weird. Anyway, I digress. We digress. Back to baseball. So, are bats an issue for you, or are bats a thing for you in this game?
Yep. Kansas City. I have more Kansas City than I humanly would ever want in a million years, but this is my big stand of the day. The Kansas City Royals going up against I just don't even know what to say. Luis Ortiz, he's going to be your long reliever here over the course of the season. 1.84 whip, 5.37 ERA. You're going to have some kind of an opener situation with Colin Selby. I don't know what to make of that. Some places had Andre Jackson listed as a starter there. It doesn't quite make sense to me, but all it sets up for is Miguel Garcia, Bobby Witt, Sal Perez, MJ Melendez, Nelson Velasquez, Drew Waters, Freddie Furman, Michael Massey. These are like all of the value pieces that I have on today's slate. Even Dairon Blanco is going to be one of the fastest players in baseball as well, batting ninth here for it. So there's actual steal upside there. If he sticks around in the league, we'll see he has no hit tool. But looking at Kansas City and my lineups today, they are the value stack that I'm rolling out the most.
Here we go. Atlanta and Colorado, Charlie Morton, Peter Lambert. Let's not talk about whether Atlanta is a good stack or not. It's very obvious that they are. Our top stack tool has that. We have them with a 7.8 run implied total. If you guys, don't have our top stack tool, or don't have the MLB sub. Oh, by the way, you can get it 50% off for the first week. There's still a month left of baseball. That means that you're getting top stack tool, top pitchers tool, ownership projections, top player or top hitters tool. What else? Premium Discord, MLB lineup generator, all of that stuff for MLB, all of our MLB tools for less than $10 a week. So you could do the MLB lineup generator. We'll show you that in a minute, because I always want to see what it's giving us for $448, or just get the entire week of MLB Stochastic or MLB Platinum, all of our MLB tools for, I think it's like $9.95. If you look in the description, you'll see it. It's 50% off first week of any subscription. So if you wanted to do all sports, you could do that too. But MLB is less than $10 a week for your first week, and the MLB lineup generator, premium Discord, all of the tools are included. So check that out if you want. And you're wondering where we're referencing all this stuff, but man, top stack percentage, 26.6%. Stack score is 11.9. Nobody else we have north of 5.7.
Unreal. Absolutely unreal. Look, this is just kind of a stand, and this is something that I'm going to be doing pretty heavily today, and you don't have to follow my lead. I just get the feeling that Atlanta, because of the Ragans price, because of the Cobb price, you are running into eternal chalk in a way that you didn't really run into it yesterday. And I would say, looking at the top stacks tool today, 28.6% is a higher number than I believe we ran into yesterday. We have the ownership share sitting sub 20%. But the big difference between yesterday and today is you had Kevin Pillar at 3,500. I actively avoided him, talked about that at length on the show, where I just felt like that was a bad piece to be throwing into this Atlanta stack. Today, your cheapest batter is Orlando Arcia at 4,700. And there's only really one strikeout guy down here, Cole Ragans, over the course of this season. Alex Cobb, he's not going to be that guy. Yesterday, you had guys with actual crazy upside that were sitting sub 7K or sub 8K if you want to throw Woo in there, if you just kind of neglected his pitch count. But I will have 0 Atlanta 5-mans today. I'm going to have exclusively 3 or 2 of these Atlanta pieces, and I'm going to have a lot of them. I'm going to be scattering a lot of my 5-mans with 2-mans and 3-mans of this Atlanta side. But I'm not going to play them as 5-mans because I think the pitching upside exists in this top tier with Lopez, Burns, Justin Steele, who I talked about as my highest owned pitcher. And then a couple of these mid-range guys, kind of mixing and matching a couple of them. Andrew Heaney, kind of the guy that I'm landing on at 7,200. But sub 7K, you don't have a guy with a 35 or a 38% strikeout rate at AAA. You don't have that guy here on this slate. I'm forcing a little bit of Ken Waldichuk. Zach Thompson has a decent enough K rate, but I'm not necessarily sure that he's going to last that long against San Diego. They don't strike out a ton. I'm making a pretty large stand not to play 5-mans. I don't want to run into the overlap, especially if I'm going to be overweight to Cole Ragans, even a little bit. So take it for what it is. I think it is a very difficult team to land on as 5-mans, and it forces you into the same construction as everybody else. And whereas I felt really good about some of the cheap pitching that we had yesterday, I don't feel as good outside of Ragans. So I am definitely going to be avoiding the 5-man Atlanta stack today.
I love it. When I had asked Matt Bellman this morning about what are some ways to get different on this slate, the first question I asked was, do we just go get exposure to Atlanta and a lot of it, 2-3-mans, like you said, and then forego the every lineup having Alex Cobb and Cole Ragans? Like that's granted, Ragans is a great spot tonight. It's just how many Atlanta 5 stacks are going to have Cobb and Ragans?
Exactly. It's a lot. And that's where I just don't feel comfortable. I felt more comfortable on yesterday's slate where it was just so easy for me. It was just like such a mistake, I felt like, by the field to not be playing him with the upside against the Reds in San Francisco. I don't feel that way about Ragans. And now the ownership is there. He's also cheaper? He's sitting at 6K. I'm not going to be bypassing it, but as a result, I don't want to be overlapping constructions with a million people where you don't really have any way of getting different. So I'm going to be overweight to Ragans. I'm going to then be overweight to the Dodgers by a pretty meaningful amount as my expensive 5-man team. And I'm just going to be piecing 2-3 pieces of Atlanta. I'm a little bit overweight to Ronald Acuna right now. That went well yesterday, huh? And then looking at Matt Olson, that's the other guy that I'm just getting to a ton anytime he faces a righty. I think he has 35 homers this season against righties. Seems pretty good. So I am pretty bullish here in this spot on Atlanta, just like everybody else is, but I'm just doing it in a completely different way.
I like it. All right, we got 3 games to go. I don't think these are going to take all that much time. We've already discussed a lot of this. Oakland and Seattle, 7.5 run total. By the way, what are we at? 174 likes. We need 26 of you 744 wonderful people. 26 of you. That's all. Eric, 26 people to get us to 200. Now 25. It's doable.
24. I just clicked it.
Now 23. That was probably Jordan. Now 18. I'll just close the show out with this. Now 13. Now
we didn't even say hello for like the first 5 minutes of the show, which I kind of loved. That was probably my favorite opener.
Now 8. Now 3. Come on, you guys want these? There we go.
Happy New Year.
Hey. Sound the alarm, friends. Let's make it happen. We're there. Thank you. Slow trickle up to 200, and we made it. See? All right. Close out this Atlanta-Colorado game on the Colorado side and Charlie Morton, and then we'll rip through these last 3 games because I don't think they're going to take long.
Charlie Morton, he's a piece of he's not chalk by any means, so you can just play a little bit. 9.5%. I'm sitting a little bit underneath the field on it. He's 8,500. Him, Barrios. Obviously the ballpark is what you're worried about there, but Colorado, you're still going to run into some strikeouts there. You got to avoid the big innings, but the ownership is low as a result. So Charlie Morton, 25.5% K rate, facing a team that has strikeouts available. Tavar, McMahon, Nolan Jones, all of those guys north of 26.7%. Back of this lineup, Toglia and Doyle both north of 32%. So a decent enough spot to take some shots, but won't play him in any of my big lineups for sure.
All right. Live Before Lock coming up next. Greg Ehrenberg, Neil Orfield. Make sure to stick around for that. Eric, can you handle the lightning round here with these?
Oh, we're going to fly. Ready? Yeah, this is going to be flying.
All right. George Kirby, 3.2 run implied total for Oakland. It's the lowest on the slate. It's one of the best pitchers park in baseball. You already mentioned Ken Waldichuk as somebody that you're going to have some just as the process unfolds here with how expensive some of these bats are. 7.5 run total in this game. Mariners, huge favorites at home.
Yep, Ken Waldichuk, 21.8% K rate, which isn't exactly nothing. That's a lot higher than that of a Jose Quintana, other guys. The major thing is he's 5,800, gives you some kind of piece to play alongside of a Cole Ragans if you're going to play Dodgers with me. If you want to get to some expensive Acuna-Olson combinations with another expensive stack, Ken Waldichuk can unlock that for you. And of course, if you're going to play the 5-man Brave stacks, he's okay as well. He's probably going to get lit up more times than not here, but he's 4% owned in the best park in baseball for preventing runs. So that's a decent enough reason to just take some blind shots there for the southpaw. As for George Kirby, he's a little bit over-owned to me going up against Oakland in this spot, but there's no doubt that I don't want to go out of my way to stack against him in this ballpark. But he does have a 420 expected slugging, 40.8% hard hit percentage. Don't think he has as much upside as what it seems like the field does. I'm not in love with George Kirby and sold that he's some extreme prospect coming off of last year's numbers. He's been good, no doubt about it, as a starter here the last year and a half, but I will not be at the field on that number.
Cincinnati and San Francisco. Seattle bats. Did you mention Seattle bats? We can.
They're fine. Again, Waldichuk. This is just a team that it seems like ends up a little bit more popular every single slate. Not sure if it's just because they're playing really good baseball and everybody wants to ride the wave there. Julio Rodriguez, one of my favorite players in baseball, one of everybody's favorite players in baseball, facing a lefty, averages 10.4 DraftKings points per game. Never a bad thing to get to him as a one-off. Him, Teoscar Hernandez, Marlowe. Dylan Moore, another power bat, lefty killer. Like getting to Seattle a little bit.
All right, guys, we turned the ads on as a surprise for you guys. Do you like that? Do you like them? No, I don't know why it's happening. If you came in late, Jordan mentioned we're going to see if we can shut them off in the back end after this stream. People getting blasted by ads. All right.
I just went to mine too.
Brandon Williamson, Alex Cobb. Alex Cobb's super popular today. Don't expect Harrison type numbers, but he's a good pitcher. It is a good spot. It is a great park. Cincinnati does have a low total. How are you playing this game on both sides?
I think Brandon Williamson's going a little bit overlooked here in this spot. I'll just throw out the case, I guess. It's a decent enough lefty. What was it? 21.3% K rate here on the season, but we've seen that K stuff start to take off a little bit here of late. In his last 5 games, has had no fewer than 6 strikeouts in any of them. Seems like the velocity's up just a tiny bit, but nothing crazy. It's just that he's had some upside. He's 6,500 and he's in a great ballpark. So I'm kind of confused why the field isn't landing on him as opposed to a Jose Quintana, who I just don't think has as much upside going up against Texas. I'm basically just flip-flopping, again, 3.2% Brandon Williamson, 13.4% Jose Quintana, basically flip-flopping those two in my builds. Got north of 14% of Brandon Williamson. On the other side of it, Alex Cobb, decent enough chalk, really good spot, just like facing Cincinnati was yesterday. 28.6% ownership. I think he's about appropriately owned. I'm a tiny bit under it.
Bats?
No, none, like no bats for me here.
Okay. Let's wrap it up. Turn the page over to Live Before Lock. Arizona and the Dodgers. Merrill Kelly, Clayton Kershaw. How about the ownership coming into these fine fellas today? 0.5% to Merrill Kelly. Clayton Kershaw at 2% against an Arizona team that doesn't strike out all that frequently. Although I will say, very positively leveraged in our top pitchers tool today.
Yeah, Clayton Kershaw positively leveraged, but I would much rather take the shots on the more expensive Corbin Burns, the more expensive Pablo Lopez, and this is purely a pitch count situation for me. You got Clayton Kershaw, 71 pitches. Now, the 33 pitches he had against Cleveland, that game got rained out, or well, it got suspended to the next day, so Clayton Kershaw didn't get to extend pitching there. But I very highly doubt that this is going to be the time that we see Clayton Kershaw go out and pitch 85 plus pitches here against Arizona, a team that doesn't really strike out against lefties. 20.2% K rate over the course of this season, bottom or top 10 in baseball at avoiding strikeouts there. They're rolling out a lineup with Buddy Kennedy batting second, 16.7% K rate. It's hot enough in LA here. It is damn hot for sure that you could maybe take some contrarian stacks for Arizona, but I'm going to do that more on the night slate. Not really going to be doing that on the main.
Eric, they can follow you at Eric Lindquist.
Play the Dodgers. That's the last thing.
You are playing them? Okay.
A lot of them, yeah.
Follow me at Laffy_D. Shout out to Jordan Klein. He's back from Maui. Yep.
Blow that cover.
The sick part is that he planned this vacation 10 days ago.
He heard there was nobody over their vacation and he wanted to go be a loner.
That's not true. He planned it a long time ago.
I know.
And he even reached out to me about it. He had guilt. And I was like, no, you have to go. Like, it's not you didn't do anything wrong. You got to go. Got to go. And he did. Yeah, why would you?
No regrets.
All right. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you. He didn't do anything wrong. You know what I mean?
It's always burning since the world's been turning.
It's a good song though. We'll see you guys back here soon. Have a good night tonight. Good luck. We'll catch you back here tomorrow on the Deeper Dive. Greg and Neil coming up next.
Welcome to Stochastic MLB Live Before Lock. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I'm here with Greg Ehrenberg. He is the analyst today. We switched roles for this one. You can find Greg on Twitter at Greg Ehrenberg. Oh shit, I didn't even look it up. Is it what is your Twitter, Greg?
Nobody knows. It's a
Nobody's
big
gonna be able to find
mystery. Some people have been saying fucknuts 37. Other people have been saying G Ehrenberg DFS. Who knows that? Who knows? Nobody knows.
G Ehrenberg. Okay, that's what it is. At G Ehrenberg DFS. I took over as the host, and immediately the first thing that I have to know I got wrong. But it's Greg just told you he needs to know what his Twitter is. I don't even know what Greg's Twitter is. Jordan Klein. We have a newly tanned, handsome Jordan Klein showing off the guns, producing the show for us. And you can find him on Twitter at Jordan D. Klein, I believe. That's another one I didn't look up. Yeah, I think he nodded. Jordan D. Klein, and you can find him if you want to find Jordan on Twitter. I don't know why he would. Never says anything there. No, he occasionally does. This show is sponsored by Caesars. We've been talking about Caesars all week. We'll talk more about Caesars later on in the show. Greg, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. Do you know what the D stands for in Jordan's middle name?
Yeah, Dick, I assume.
Yes, exactly. That is it. If I'm not mistaken, is it Jordan D. Klein or is it Jordan B. Klein, though?
I think it's D. Jordan is cracking up. He's not going to... Are you going to tell us, Jordan?
And what does it stand for? All right. That's not that far off from Richard, though.
Yeah, I was close for sure. Jordan D. Klein. The D is for David. All right. So, first of all, Greg, before we get into the baseball, have you been drafting enough best ball to care about this Jonathan Taylor news?
Yeah, it's not great for me. But with that said, so the way I've done best ball drafts this year for football, and this is my first foray into doing the best ball, is what I have been doing is whenever there's any kind of news that's not football related that decreases a player's draft stock, I've gone ahead and specifically done drafts to target those players. So I'm overweight to the field on Jonathan Taylor. I've been drafting him in third, fourth round as of late. Now, with that said, though, I don't know that it's necessarily a terrible thing or a terrible strategy for me overall, because will the Jonathan Taylor work out? Absolutely not at this point. I don't think it's going to work very well. But I was able to get a bunch of drafts where I have Josh Jacobs in the fourth round. I have a bunch of drafts where I got Saquon Barkley in the fourth round, if you remember where Saquon Barkley was a threat to hold out. So, overall, has this been a net positive for me? We'll find out. But in something where it pays out so top heavy, we're looking for the best lineups possible. Sure, I have some likely dead Jonathan Taylor teams, but is the upside of teams where I have the Josh Jacobs and the Saquon Barkleys in the fourth round, is the upside of those teams, has it made it worthwhile? I don't know. We're going to find out. But if I lose, I'm going to blame it on just variance anyway. So we'll see.
No, that's I've been doing the same thing. So I was probably going to be doing a ton of best ball drafts anyway, but I've been increasing my volume for the past 2 weeks, because I've been this is the perfect time to be drafting because of Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, and where they go is around the 2-3 turns. So it's if you get one of those early picks, if you get Jefferson, Chase, you follow it up in the second, third round with one of those guys, you're going to be in such a beautiful position. Especially for me, Jacobs was the pick that I wanted a little bit more, but I kind of was mostly indifferent to Jacobs versus Taylor. It turned out, though, I just slammed all of these best ball mania drafts, and I got the 10th pick in all of them. I just never had the opportunity to take advantage of it, because by the end of the third round, where I would then be drafting, they were gone anyway. So I actually didn't get to take advantage of it. Luckily, I had a pretty secured bag of Josh Jacobs already. Jonathan Taylor, I have a good amount also. It's interesting. I have a ton of Evan Hall also, who is one of the backup running backs on the Colts, but it's such a messy situation. Nobody actually knows who's going to be the starting running back for the Colts for those first 4 weeks. Maybe they're going to sign Kareem Hunt. So it's kind of hard to take advantage of this one. But yeah, I've been doing the same. And the Broncos situation, another one with Jerry Jeudy being hurt. Marvin Mims for a while was not really moving up the draft board all that much. Now that's finally I feel like I missed some opportunities to get some really killer drafts because I wasn't getting the right draft spots. But whatever. What are you going to do? Well, we've got some baseball to talk about here, similar in some ways to the slate we had yesterday, with the Braves just being far and away the team that we probably are going to want to target as far as bats go. But we will start by talking about some pitchers. So looking at the high end at pitcher, Pablo Lopez, top of the board. I think I've got FanDuel pulled up here, actually. Let me pull up DraftKings to talk about the pitchers here.
It's the pressure.
Still going to be
pressure hosting. It's getting to you.
It is. It's just I just have. The reason I have FanDuel pull up. I have multiple windows. I didn't realize I had not closed my window from when I did the lineup generator video earlier. So that's why I had. Okay. Pablo Lopez is top of the board though on DraftKings. Also, we'll start talking about the high end on DraftKings. So we've got 3 pitchers above 10,000 on DraftKings: Pablo Lopez, Corbin Burnes, Clayton Kershaw. Maybe we throw in a couple more into the mix. Let's just throw Justin Steele, George Kirby into the conversation as well at the high end. So let's do all the pitchers 9,500 or higher on the high end. Who do you like the best here? Who you playing the most?
Sure. So I'm not paying up for pitching a whole bunch today. I'm going cheap at pitching, and some of it's to pay up for the Braves. Another part of it is to pay up for another low owned stack that's really expensive. I think has a lot of upside that we'll talk about in a little bit. But relying on our data, we do have Pablo Lopez projected the best of any of the pay up options, while also project for the least amount of ownership. Pablo Lopez only project for 5% ownership. We have with a 19.4% chance of being one of the top 2 scoring pitchers. Now, in a lot of times in this kind of scenario, I'd build out my lineups and I'd land on just a ton of Pablo Lopez. The issue, though, is I do think a lot of the top stacks that we're looking at today are expensive. A lot of the stacks I want to be getting to are pricey. So I'm overweight to the field on Pablo Lopez. I have my lineups, I think, pretty set. Unless something dramatic changes, there's not a whole lot that I'm going to have to alter between now and the slate starting. And one thing that's also kind of nice, usually I would think about with me being the analyst as opposed to hosting, is it's way easier for me to build lineups on shows the analyst versus when I'm the host. Doesn't matter today, though, because we got so many of the lineups out in advance, and I was able to build everything that I've kind of lost one of the luxuries of not hosting the show and doing all the ad reads and whatnot. But still, I've got everything, like I said, set in fairly stone. I don't think anything's going to change all that significantly. I have the most of Pablo Lopez of any pay-up pitcher, but that means I have him in 15% of my lineups. It's 3x the field on him. I'm overweight to him. He's somebody who has had a really strong season, especially in the strikeout department. Pablo Lopez this year, 29.3% K rate, 3.39 FIP. So definitely a guy in Pablo Lopez is in a good matchup, has a lot of upside. The one issue with this particular slate, though, is just how he fits in with his salary, with the stacks that I'm looking to get to. So I like being overweight to him. If you guys are playing a cheap stack and you're looking for a pay up option and you want a way to be different, I do think it makes a whole lot of sense to pivot from a George Kirby to Pablo Lopez if salary permits. But overall, the issue is that the stacks I'm getting to, it kind of prohibits me from getting to a ton of Pablo Lopez. Still overweight to him, though.
So Pablo Lopez is your highest exposed of those 5 pitchers. Even like George Kirby, we have at 32% projected ownership. You have less than 15% George Kirby?
Yeah, not by much. I have 14% George Kirby, so slightly underweight to him, but still, he is somebody who I'm getting to a little bit less than Pablo Lopez. And listen, George Kirby's probably the best cash game pitcher that we have on the entire slate. I think cash games on DraftKings are incredibly easy today. You're playing George Kirby, you're playing Cole Ragans, and there's your cash game lineup at pitcher. Yep. Easy. But when you look at George Kirby at $9,700, great match from against Oakland. Here's the one issue I have with him is all that ownership. This is what's going to be the build that a lot of people are doing. Yesterday, we kind of talked about the same. Like, what are people going to be doing with their build? And it was like, hey, this is what most of the field is doing. They're going to play Dylan Wu. They're going to play the Braves as a stack. And then they're also going to play, Brian Wu. And then who's the other pitcher that was super Grayson Rodriguez. And that was the chalkiest build of the entire slate, which is why, even though I had a slightly different build, Neil, I min cashed in the 121 single entry by scoring like 180 fantasy points. Like that was the min cash line yesterday in single entry because everybody played the same lineup. I had I played a bunch of Tyler McGill yesterday. He was nice and didn't matter because he scored the same exact amount of fantasy points as every other cheap pitcher that went out and just crushed yesterday. But for this slate, where Kirby is $9,700, I think it's a little bit too popular, 32% owned. And then also the issue of just being that he's expensive, doesn't really fit in with the builds that I want to play. And another thing too with George Kirby is, as great as his stuff is, he's a 23% K rate this year. It's not like he's a guy who's blowing hitters away by the most part. So there's obviously a ceiling because he pitches against Oakland, but by and large, he's not been the highest upside pitcher in the world this season. So he brings a little bit more security than he typically brings ceiling. And at north of 30% ownership, he's somebody who I'm underweight to, even though he is my second most rostered pay up option behind Pablo Lopez.
Yeah. When you're hitting under 15% of those guys, you're still really far under the field. Speaking of yesterday's pitches, Jacques says, Greg, thanks for the Kyle Harrison tip last night. It netted me a first place 5K win in the 15K Knuckleball. Hell yeah, that is good to hear. Took a shot there at the end that I don't think was necessary. So I'm going to add in that another good call that we had yesterday. So I know Eric was very much on that play. Eric was also very much on the Twins last night, which I then tailed that, mentioned it on Live Before Lock. I was basically just tailing Eric on the Twins call last night, and they absolutely crushed. I feel like it went pretty well for us yesterday overall. Yeah. A couple of the teams that we recommended yesterday were the Orioles and the Astros, who both absolutely crushed. Unfortunately, because I was on a show, I didn't actually play much of the Astros, so I didn't get to as much as I wanted to. I got you may recall that yesterday while we were on the show, I hand built one lineup on FanDuel because I wanted to play a Braves twin stack on FanDuel. Ended up getting 7th place out of just over 1,000 lineups with my single hand built lineup. But I had a 0 from Ryan Jeffers. Guess how close I was to first place, Greg?
Well, you were so 6 spots back.
Yeah, it was 6 spots back. In terms of what I needed from Ryan Jeffers, the only thing I needed from Ryan Jeffers to get first place was 3 home runs. That's all it would have taken for me to get first place is 3 home runs out of Ryan Jeffers.
How much did the first win by?
He won by a good amount. I actually have no idea. I don't remember. I just know that I was not actually close to taking it down. Yeah, I'm not going to pull it up.
You see Chris Williams last night, our Apple friend, who's always playing the late night slates. He won the late night slate last night, won over 10K. So he gifted out a bunch of YouTube memberships, 10 of them from Chris Williams, our friend over at Apple. But yeah, Chris, I saw that you had that. So you had that hit last night, and congrats. Yeah, won $11,000. I think he split the late night slate with, what was it, like 2 or 3 other people. But yeah, definitely love to see it. And in the Giants game last night, yeah, Harrison went out and he crushed at, relatively high ownership, but like nothing too insane. So another one of those guys that was a pretty good pivot off of Grayson Rodriguez.
Did you expect him to be able to pitch? Like, did I hear 91 pitches last night? Like that seemed like that was higher than we expected out of Harrison. So he was just going so hot. Do you think they just left him in because he was doing so well?
He had only pitched more than 4 innings, including the minor leagues, once the entire year. So no, I didn't expect it, but sometimes you run good. Yeah, that
was pretty awesome. All right. Let's move on to the mid-range here at pitching. And I know that it sounds like you're paying down more than anything, but let's just talk about everybody like 8,000 to 9,500. So we already did Justin Steele in the higher, so I guess 8,000 to 9,100. Is there anybody here you're playing in any kind of volume between Bayo up to Merrill Kelly?
Let's see. So what is this price range we're looking at?
So we got Brian Bayo. If you want, we could just talk about it as one big price range here if you're not going to anybody in the mid range, but we've got, Merrill Kelly is the top of the pitchers that we haven't talked about yet. I don't think there's any super interesting mid-range pitchers, so maybe we don't need to talk much about it at all. But is there anybody in this like Brian Bayo, JP France, Charlie Morton, Gavin Williams, Jose Barrios, Merrill Kelly? Is there anybody in that group that you're playing double digits even?
No. There's nobody. So also I have very few pitchers that I have double-digit exposure to today. There's 1, 2, 3, 5 pitchers on the entire slate I have more than 10% ownership of. It's Cole Ragans, it's Alex Cobb, Justin Steele, George Kirby, Pablo Lopez. Only those 5. So in this price range, it's kind of a dead range to me. There's actually nobody in this price range I even have more than 4% of. My most rostered pitcher in this range is, I have 4% of Charlie Morton. So I have a few lineups of Morton, which, by the way, is still underweight to the field on him. He's projected for nearly 10% ownership. So yeah, this is not a range I'm getting to very much.
Yeah, a little bit of positive correlation there if you can play Charlie Morton with the Braves bats, but man, it's in Colorado, hard to have a ton of interest there. I don't think I'm going to be playing a lot of this range either. So we don't really have to say much more about it. If anybody else has any questions, anything you want to talk about specifically with the mid-range, fire them at us, but I don't think it's as interesting as the cheap pitchers. So let's just jump to the cheap pitchers. We've got Alex Cobb getting 30% ownership. We've got Cole Ragans getting 34% ownership. So let's start with the chalky cheap guys. Those two being the real chalkier. I don't see anybody else who's getting a ton of ownership. What are you doing with Alex Cobb and Cole Ragans? Do you think you're going to be matching the field, going above the field? What's your plan here?
Yeah, so I much prefer Ragans of the two of them. He's my most rostered pitcher on the slate by a really wide margin. He's in 3/4 of my lineup. So my slate is really going to hinge on him. And I understand he's going to be really popular. My offense is, when we get to offense, there's a few spots that I'm being pretty different at. So I'm getting to a ton of Ragans. He's super cheap. He's mispriced. He's got a great matchup against the Pirates. He's a 20.8% K rate this year. All of his numbers also look strong. 3.66 ERA, 3.24 FIP, 3.62 xFIP for Ragans. So this is a guy who looks like a legitimately good starting pitcher. By the way, his last start, he was touching 100 miles per hour as a starting pitcher. And even in his last inning, if I'm not mistaken, remember correctly, his last inning, he was still touching 100 miles per hour on his fastball. So he's got legit stuff. He's pitching extremely well. He's gotten better as the season's gone on. So if you look at some of the just box score numbers of Ragans, for instance, his last 5 starts, he scored 23 or more fantasy points in 4 out of those 5. How he's still only 6,000 on DraftKings, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. He's going to be really popular. I think it's warranted. Easiest button on the entire slate to click in cash games as well.
Yeah, we'll be looking at the lineup generator later on. We're not going to do that just yet, but I did my lineup generator VOD earlier. I think I got like 90% Ragans on, it was either DraftKings or FanDuel. I think it was on DraftKings. I was getting to like 90% Ragans. He just looks so good here, and I think he makes a lot of sense as a play. I think you read this out, Greg, earlier, and I think I was reading something out and kind of reading something else and kind of missed what you actually said. Chris Williams said that he won $11,000 last night, our Apple guy. Did you read that already?
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah, I thought you did, and I just was not listening, so I didn't hear what you actually said. That's awesome, Chris. Congrats on that big win. I'm getting used to the hosting chair. Yeah, somebody else, Dan French said, wait, Neil is hosting. Yeah, we flipped it up today. We had talked about it before the year. Greg asked me what I would prefer to do. And before the season, I said, I think I'd rather be the analyst. And then last year with Greg out, I took over the hosting and realized it's probably better for us. It's probably a better show if I'm hosting and Greg is doing the analysis, because my MLB process is just kind of boring to talk about. It's just a lot of, I look at the top stacks tool, I look at the top pitchers tool, I try to leverage using those tools. Sometimes I'll use the lineup generator, sometimes but Greg's process is a lot more involved. So I think it's just a better, more interesting show with Greg as the analyst, me as the host. So we talked about it again today and decided to flip what we're doing. And you can tell who's hosting because I'm on the left side of the screen, right? So that's the easiest.
The other thing too, in Neil's defense, the reason that he wasn't able to hear me, those aren't even headphones. Those are just earmuffs and they cancel out noise. So he hasn't been able to hear anything the entire time. What he does is he throws out a baseball related question, sometimes football, best ball at the top. He waits for my mouth to stop moving and then he just throws in another question, but he doesn't hear me at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what is the point of listening to other people when I'm on a show? I want to hear myself. It's actually, it reflects, I hear myself really loud and clear in these. I just don't hear anybody else. Jacques says, Neil, it wasn't a shot at Eric. It was a joke. Honestly, the Eric and Greg tandem is comedy. Okay, that is good to hear that it was not meant to be a shot as Eric. Although I do agree with Greg, it's better as a shot at Eric. It was a funny shot at Eric. But yeah,
for sure. And by the way, though, it's not like you're in bad company not being able to hear. Adam does shows with his volume off on his computer, so he not only does he not hear, he doesn't even try to hear. He just turns the volume off and then he just kind of goes with the flow. He just says whatever he wants to say about players, whatever your opinion is. He doesn't care. He's not listening, and then he just shares his opinion.
That's why he never responds to the prompt. He just says random things at random times throughout the show. It's always a weird show. That's part of the entertainment of doing a show with Adam, is that you just never know what he's going to say because he's not listening to anything that anybody's saying.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to be interesting, but it's going to be sports related.
Exactly right. All right. Back to the pitchers. So we're still on the low end. Are there any other pitchers that are not expensive that you're playing in any kind of volume?
So, I mean, Alex Cobb, I mentioned before, the pitchers I have double-digit exposure to. Cobb is another one. But now with that said, he is somebody that I'm underweight to the field to because he's projected also for north of 30% ownership. So of those two cheap starting pitchers, mentioned it before, really prefer Ragans to Alex Cobb. Cobb is overall my second most rostered pitcher on the entire slate, but still end up coming in underweight to the field on Alex Cobb. It's not really a knock against him other than the fact that Cole Ragans is cheaper, he's better, and he's also in a better matchup. So I think the ownership on Ragans is justified. On Cobb, it kind of is to an extent, but I come in underweight to the field just because you got similar ownership on Ragans and Cobb, and I think Ragans is a much better option.
What do you think of Andrew Heaney against the Mets? I know Eric was saying that he was really in on Heaney. Heaney always an interesting pitcher to me just because the range of outcomes is so wide. Does not look particularly good in the top pitchers too. Are you getting to any Heaney?
No, not really. So there was a point where I was playing a lot more of Andrew Heaney. Here's the biggest issue I have with him. What is going on with how deep he's working into games as of late? Because these are the last 3 starts that he's had for the Rangers. And it's not like he's pitched great in these starts, but he hasn't been so terrible either that it's justified these kind of lengths of outings. 4 1/3 innings, 3 2/3 innings, and 1 1/3 innings. So the last 3 starts combined, you've gotten about 9 innings out of Andrew Heaney. He's averaging 3 innings per start over the last 3. And like I said, it's not a thing like his control is really off across those 3 starts. He's walked a total of 4 hitters. They've just had a crazy quick hook with them. So with that in mind, it's really hard for me to trust Andrew Heaney. He's $7,200. So certainly we've seen his price come down a little bit. His last 3 starts, he was 86, 77, and 7,700. But still, even at 7,200, we've got pitchers like Alex Cobb and Cole Ragans to go to for even cheaper than him. It's really hard for me to find my way to Heaney when I'm not even confident he's going to make it through 3 innings.
I think that is a reasonable stance to not want to play somebody who you don't think is going to make it necessarily more than 3 innings. Eric Drop says, Neil, you missed the opportunity to just ignore everything Greg said there and move on to the next question. Yeah, that would have been better if I went that route. It's difficult. It is. I like hosting. It is a little bit of a transition though every time to get used to the all right, got to read chat, got to look for do the sponsor reads, everything. It's a lot. You just have to readjust what you're doing every time you switch from the analyst to the hosting show. So I'm getting back into the groove here. Hopefully I'll be able to think on the fly like that going forward. Oh, Cordero says Hull is going to be good value on DK because JT being on the pup list. Greg, you did a tweet where you did the tweet with the DraftKings week 1, but you did it with Deion Jackson as the running back. Do you think Deion Jackson is going to be the guy in Indy?
I don't really care. It's going to change. So it's funny. We're only a week and a half or so away from the first NFL slate. But we're going to know before then. I don't presume we're going to go into Sunday having to guess who the running back is going to be.
Yeah, probably
If
not.
I had to guess right now, I would say Jackson just because he was so good in that role last year when Taylor was out. But what I think is most likely to happen is they sign Kareem Hunt, they sign Leonard Fournette, and one of those guys probably ends up being the primary back for this team. But we'll see. I'm not really sure. I just wanted to be the first one to put out the super hacky tweet.
It was a great tweet. I thought you should have had Hull in there personally. No, I actually, even though I've drafted a ton of Hull, I don't feel strongly that he is going to be the running back. I don't even feel strongly that he is going to be great this year. I think that there's upside there, but I have not. I don't really have a strong take there. Sotex says I need to be taking notes from Laufey on being the host. Yeah, I mean, taking notes from Laufey, taking notes from Greg, a lot of pros here in the host chair. I've some experience in the host chair now. I like doing it in general, but yeah, it can be at times a little bit overwhelming, particularly on live before lock. But no, I enjoy being in this chair. But we should talk about some FanDuel pitchers. But before we do the pitchers, I do want to tell you again about our host, Caesars. We've been talking about it all week, so you're probably familiar with the deal at this point. But if you're not, and Caesars is available, if there's sports betting available where you live, highly recommend taking advantage of this deal while it's here. It's probably not going to get better over time. I know that this deal goes away in September. They've already told us the deal is going away in September. But the deal is, you bet $50, you're going to get $250 in bonus bets. So it's not just they're matching your deposit. They're 5xing your bet when you bet $50 on Caesars. It's going to come in $50 increments over the course of 5 weeks. Really is a fantastic deal. Of course, the legal age for gambling in most states is 21 plus. If you're someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. But if you don't have a gambling problem, you should really be gambling at Caesars because it is a fantastic deal here. $50 into $250. I mean, you got to be taking advantage of all of these offers while they're available. And right now we've got NFL coming up, a lot of good bets to be made in the next month too. So seems like the time is now, right, Greg?
Yeah, and I mean, it's a thin line there, right? The only real difference between being my role as a professional gambler and then being a gambling addict, it's ROI. It's the only thing that separates it. There's the mentality is no different, right? It's just, are you profitable? Or are you not profitable? Because I mean, let's say you're an alcoholic, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Is there any situation where you're an alcoholic and because of your addiction, you wake up with a new house in the next morning? Absolutely not. But that's what got me my house that I live in right now. So it's definitely different. On
the other hand, like cocaine, maybe if you do enough cocaine, you'll get rich, right?
If you sell it.
I've never actually, I'm the only lawyer actually in the United States of America who has never sold cocaine. Yeah, exactly where I was going with that. The only lawyer who is not also a coke dealer. All right, let's move on to FanDuel pitchers, Greg. So it looks like we have, once again, moving back to my old screen where I have FanDuel up. Pablo Lopez is still the top pitcher on FanDuel We've got him with a 7% chance to be in the top pitcher. It's always so flat at the top of FanDuel. It's harder for me to do the pitching analysis. So here's where I'm glad to have you doing it instead of me, Greg. Let's talk about the high end at pitcher. We have several above 10,000 on FanDuel today. Do you think you're inclined to play any of these guys? We've got Kershaw, we've got Burns, we've got Pablo Lopez. I guess those are the only three. I thought we had a few more, but then did I just refresh to DraftKings? Yes, I did. Okay, I refreshed and went back to DraftKings. All right, I thought we had more than that.
One of my favorite things that Neil does is when he asks me what's on his screen.
Yeah,
as if I would have any clue. Like, we're not screen sharing. I can't see what's on your screen. I'll just be like, oh yeah, you're looking at this. So I guess I could know if you say an ownership that's, for DraftKings isn't for FanDuel.
Yeah.
In general, I don't really know what you're looking at.
Come on, young man, help me out with my computer.
I mean, I'd be careful saying you're looking at young men on your computer. I wouldn't go that far.
All right. So we've got seven pitchers above 10,000 on FanDuel. Pablo Lopez at the top, Clayton Kershaw, Merrill Kelly, George Kirby, Justin Steele, Corbin Burns, Jose Barrios. Who do you like on FanDuel? Do you think you'd be inclined to go to these high-end pitchers on FanDuel?
Not really. I mean, if you look at the way the slate sets up, you've got Raggins over on FanDuel as well at only $6,600, another just totally broken price point, especially when you consider that pricing is so much different on FanDuel at pitching. We've talked about it all throughout the year, how they changed their pricing algorithm. And generally, you hardly ever get decent starting pitchers. We're even below like $8,500. That's just not the case today. So if you had to roster a pay-up option, I would once again say Pablo Lopez is the high, 11,300 at home against the Cleveland Guardians, only projected for 1.6% ownership. We haven't projected as the top pitcher on the slate. His strikeout rate, that's the same on FanDuel as it was on DraftKings, 29.3%. The problem, though, is he's so expensive. The stacks we want to play on both FanDuel and DraftKings are also expensive. We've got great cheap options, so it's really hard to prioritize him. If I was playing 150 lineups on FanDuel, I would certainly have more than 1% of Pablo Lopez. But no, for a lot of our audience that's listening, that's probably only playing one lineup, maybe a handful of them. I don't think Pablo Lopez is somebody you'd be playing, or really any of the pay-up options. Go cheap on FanDuel.
George Kirby, the only one getting real owner, 10% ownership with George Kirby. Kind of interesting when he's so expensive to see that he is getting that much ownership. I guess you have, playing against Oakland, probably a little bit more likely to get that quality start bonus to get that win. So there are, I guess, reasons to go there with George Kirby, but pretty high ownership there. So it sounds like you'd be more inclined though to pay down a pitcher. Who do you like on FanDuel? Is it the same? You're just going back to Cole Reagans there?
Yeah, I mean, you could also play Alex Cobb at 7,900. The problem, though, it's kind of the same deal with Alex Cobb and Raggins that we talked about on DraftKings, which is they're comparably owned, 25% for Raggins, 19% for Alex Cobb, and then also Cobb is $1,300 more expensive. So just give me Raggins for the price discount, and then, not too much different of ownership. He's the most popular pitcher on the slate, but once again, we talk about stacks. There's a pay-up stack that I like quite a bit today that's going to be a different pay-up option than what the field is getting to. So, I think just keep rolling with the Kansas City starting pitcher, Cole Raggins, on both sites. He's my most rostered pitcher. He's going to be popular. I think it's warranted today.
All right. Do you have any other comments on pitchers before we move over to some stacks? Maybe take a look at the lineup generator.
Yeah, let's go ahead and look at the lineup generator. There's not too much else that I have to talk about as far as pitchers go.
All right, Jordan, can you pull up the lineup generator for us? He nodded at me. Oh, he's got it pulled up. Look at this guy. All right, yeah. Let's start with some DraftKings lineups. I like to do all stack types and all lineups. This is the real reason I wanted to host, is so that I can make that decision. And then okay, now let's. All right, we're just going to go right through our 20 lineups. Really important to me that we do all lineup types.
All right.
70% Cole Reagans. So it was the same as I was seeing earlier. 70% Ronald Acuna, 50% Ozzie Albies, 45% Michael Harris, 40% Marcelo. Lot of Braves at the top here, Greg. I would say no surprises with Braves getting to 70% Brave stacks, 20% Giant stacks. Well, let me ask you this, Greg. So this is something that I kind of go through this every day when I do the lineup generator segment. I ask myself, if I just got to these 20 lineups, would I run these 20 lineups? Because we know like every lineup you're going to get in the lineup generator is going to be a long-term profitable lineup. but that doesn't mean that I necessarily want to just run out the first 20. It's different than the Sims tool. With the Sims tool, like you can see the exact expected ROI. You just want to play, you like to play just the top, but the lineup generator is a little bit different because you're getting a bunch of good lineups, but like you're not necessarily getting the 20 best lineups right away. So I like to sometimes look at it and say, do I want to spread out my exposure a little bit more than what we have? Jordan, can you move back to the player exposures? Because I want to ask Greg about this. Would you be comfortable with this level of exposure to these players in a lineup set of 20 lineups, or would you want to spread it out more?
No, because it does not. The team that I have the most exposure to as a stack today is not in any of these lineups,
Okay.
which is the reason the answer is no for me. So I think this is, clearly a really good spot for teams like the Atlanta Braves, but I'm not playing, 70% of them today.
Okay. So you would be inclined to maybe discard 5 Braves lineups and then go back and find some. I'm guessing the lineup you want to play would be in the contrarian lineups, most likely.
Probably.
Okay. Well, we'll get to talking about which stacks Greg likes. But yeah, I think this is a spot where I would probably go back and discard a few of these, maybe go find more diverse stacks. So I'm not getting to 70%, 80%, whatever it was that we have of the Braves, just to spread it out a little bit more than what we have here. But in general, I do think this is a solid lineup set. I think that you could just run out with this 20. Do you see anything else here that you want to talk about? Anything of note in this 20 lineup set?
Yeah, not paying up for pitching here very much. That does mirror a lot of what I am doing with my lineups. Alex Cobb, 25%. That's fairly close to what I have him as a pitcher. And then Cole Ragans also. You remember what I said before? I said that he's in about 3/4 of my lineups. And what is our ownership to him right here? 70%, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah.
Really similar in terms of what I'm getting. And then undercutting the most popular pitchers. Where like I don't see George Kirby at all towards the top here. If you scroll down a little bit here, Jordan, like I'd said, I have less than just under 15% of George Kirby. I had 15% Pablo Lopez. Look, there he is, 15%. And then, yeah, I don't see George Kirby really at all here, which I'm undercutting the field on George Kirby. So I don't hate it. I like going cheap.
There he is. 5% George Kirby. Okay. Let's take a look at some FanDuel lineups as well, Jordan.
Yeah. Do it, Jordan.
Jordan professional. He knows all the buttons to click.
Yeah, Jordan could build lineups. He could ruin the environment. He's got it all.
Got a nice tan, though.
That is true. I mean, the one thing I told everybody is if you have a trip to Hawaii, don't go because they need the water. They need the resources to conserve. So what does Jordan do? He goes right to Hawaii, flies out there, uses all the resources. The one thing I told him to do, which apparently he did do, is he did pee in the shower. So he saved himself 1 flush per day, which is nice. But yeah, what he really should have done if he was really committed is lay on his back and just peed into his mouth, because then he's saving himself a flush and he doesn't have to use any of the water resources.
That's a good point. And you're probably not burning, sweating at all if you're just laying there. You're not building up a sweat, so you don't need to shower or anything. Have you ever seen the commercial, Greg? I forget what country it was. I want to say Brazil, but I'm not sure if that's right. They ran like a public PSA that is pee in the shower essentially, so that you can conserve water. Have you ever seen that commercial?
No, but it makes sense to me. I've always said that I pee in the shower because I care about the environment.
There's nothing wrong with peeing in the shower. Some people think it's weird. I am a big proponent of peeing in the shower, and saving the environment is definitely my number one reason and always has been. All right. So on FanDuel, our highest exposed player, we got to 95% Cole Ragans. This is a single pitcher site. So you're getting him in 19 of your 20 lineups. Again, 70% Ronald Acuna, 60% Ozzie Albies, 45% Michael Harris, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of the Braves, once again. What do you think of 95% Cole Ragans? Think you'd be comfortable with that, Greg?
It's a lot, but I mean, I think he's by far the best option that you have going on FanDuel. And to be honest, if you're playing 20 lineups, I don't have an issue taking a stand on one pitcher. I think is by far the best play on the entire slate. Like I wouldn't play 95% of them across 150 lineups, but I don't think you necessarily want to play 20 lineups and be like totally split exposure where it's like, hey, I'm playing, like 16 different stacks. I've got, 10 different pitchers. If you're going to take a stand on anything on this slate, I don't have an issue with him being the stand.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. I would imagine you'd give the same response if I asked you if you'd be comfortable with the stacks here, because there is a different stack that you like better. I'm guessing it's not showing up here, or is the stack you want to talk about, is it showing up here at all on FanDuel?
I don't know. Jordan, go back to the
stack exposures
for a second there. It's there, but not as much as I have.
All
Do you
right.
want to
Well,
guess which team it is?
I do want to guess which team it is. I'm gonna go with. I was gonna guess San Diego, but they were getting a 20% here of San Diego, so it's probably not them.
Do you know
I'll
what
go
San Diego means in German?
a whale's vagina.
No, are you
Yeah,
an idiot? It's Saint Diego.
I guess that makes
How
sense.
stupid is this guy? He's
Yeah,
got.
you're right. I don't know where
Yeah,
that came from.
his head must be getting crushed by the headphones that don't let him hear.
Yeah, exactly right. I can't really think straight with these headphones crushing my brain. I'm gonna go with Toronto.
It is not Toronto. Shout out to Chris Williams, by the way, because Chris left us another 10 YouTube memberships and just added me to make sure that it went through. It did go through, Chris. Saw it come up there. We appreciate you and the support. He's doing it for once we get to 300 likes. So guys, do us a favor. Like the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Do it for Chris. He's gifting stuff out in the YouTube chat to make sure that you guys like and subscribe and whatnot. What was your guess?
I think I went with the Blue Jays. Is it the Blue Jays?
Not the Blue Jays.
Was I right about San Diego?
No. It's really Saint Diego.
Really, Saint Diego. Oh, I see what we did there. Somebody in chat just said, "Is it the Royals?"
No, it's not the Royals. But there's only so many teams left.
I know. I'm just going to keep going until I get it. At this point, is it the Rangers?
It is the Texas Rangers.
Man, I nailed that. That was such a good guess. Okay, glad I was able to guess the Rangers.
If people are paying up at offense and going cheap at pitcher, everybody's gravitating towards the Atlanta Braves today. And for good reason, right? I think the Braves really, really do rate out well. We have them projected with a 29% chance to be the top scoring team on the entire slate. We have, though, the Texas Rangers at only 2% ownership. And especially in some of the smaller fields, like I'm playing the 1-1-1 on DraftKings and then also the 121 single entry. I love getting to the Texas Rangers in this spot. You got a pitcher in Jose Quintana, who I don't really rate all that well at this point in his career. You've got an offense also in the Texas Rangers that has been really potent over the course of the season. Now, have they trailed off a little bit as of late? Yes, this is a team that looked like not only a lock to make the playoffs, but looked like one of the best teams in all of baseball not all that long ago. And now their odds of making the playoffs, at least if you look at the FanGraphs projection, somewhere around 70% because of the recent struggles by them and how good the Mariners have been. But you've got this pitcher in Jose Quintana who, all right, he has good numbers for this year. Not going to doubt that at all. Jose Quintana has had really good outings and is probably one of the only bright spots of this entire Mets team right now, which has just been a total disaster. But Quintana has been not great for a handful of years now. So if you look at, for instance, 2021, 6.43 ERA, 5.02 expected ERA. He does have a 3.73 ERA this year, but some good luck involved for sure. He's a 4.61 expected ERA overall for the year. So I do think that there's some regression coming for Jose Quintana, who, by the way, also has only thrown 41 innings this season for the Mets. He's only made 7 starts. We're looking at a fairly small sample size. He's not generating swing and misses. The strikeout rate's only 17%. He's walking a bunch of guys. What's really buoying his ERA is that he only has a 2.2% home run to fly ball rate, which to me is very fluky. There is no chance this guy's going to be like 1 out of 50 fly balls hit against Jose Quintana ends up being a homer. He's allowed 1 homer for the entire year. If I'm expecting some regression to come, he's against a very potent offense, is getting no ownership today, 2%. So this is the spot that I really like getting to be contrarian. My single entry team is the Texas Rangers, my most stacked team in large field tournaments. I think it's a great spot for the Braves. I get why people are getting there. I just really like the ownership on Texas and how low it is. So if you just ask me which team is going to score the most runs today, I would say it's the Braves. But do I think they outscore the Rangers at a 10-1 clip? Because that's the ownership difference. 20% about for the Braves, 2% for the Rangers. We have these teams, 29% odds of the Rangers being the top, 29% chance of the Braves being the top stack compared to 5.8% for the Texas Rangers. So playing them for an ownership discount for sure.
I got to say, I feel it was a big mistake of me to not pull up the top stacks tool before answering your question about who you're going to play, because now that I have it pulled up, like, yeah, it looks obvious to me. Now that I see the top stacks tool, the Rangers look incredible in the top stacks tool as a 2% ownership, 6% chance to be in the top stack, 3% chance to be in the top value stack as well. So yeah, glad to hear that you are in line with the top stacks tool in your love for the Rangers.
Can I help you with something, Neil? if you are, when you're hosting, if you have the YouTube chat popped out, click on the fan funding tab, because then you can see all the super chats that come across. Like Chris Williams just gifted out 20 YouTube memberships out on top of the 10 that he gave out before, which is on top of however other many that he gave out earlier in the show. So shout out to Chris. We definitely appreciate the support. But also Jorge Giacomi left us a super chat. He wants to know what our thoughts are on Seattle and San Diego as contrarian stacks. Just want to make sure that we didn't miss out on that.
Yeah, that's a good call. I had seen Jorge's, and it was right before we were about to move to the stacks, and then I forgot it. What is it that you want me to click? So I pull out YouTube chat.
Yeah, so if you pop out the YouTube chat and then you click on, see there's a drop-down menu. If you select fan funding, you'll just see all of our super chats come. It's really convenient. I believe it was Jordan Klein set that up.
That is cool. Yeah,
or maybe YouTube did it already. I'm going to give Jordan the credit anyway, though. So then you can just, it's a really easy way. I kind of toggle back and forth between that and our normal chat just to make sure I don't miss anything. But Jorge anyway asked, thoughts on Seattle and San Diego as contrarian stacks. To be honest, I'm not really getting to either of them very much today. I have 2.7% of Seattle. So if I had to pick one of them, that would be the play. But Seattle isn't even all that contrarian today. We have them projected for 6.4% ownership. So Seattle's the 5th most popular stack on the entire slate. San Diego's the 3rd most popular stack of the entire slate. So I don't really view either of them as all that contrarian.
Yeah, tough to love either of them. Both look fine to me, but as you said, like they're not like standing out as some of the top stacks. Probably not. Neither of them is the stack that I would go to. But if I were going to go to one of them, yeah, it's tough. Probably Seattle, but I don't feel strongly about that either. All right. So let's talk about the Braves though. So I know we went right to Texas being underowned relative to the Braves, but what do you do? Like, are you still playing some Braves stacks here? Or are you going to be matching the field, below the field? How to what extent are you playing the Braves here today?
Yeah, I mean, the Braves are still a team I have double-digit exposure to. I'm just more in line with the field. And I know a lot of our data says, like, hey, the Braves are a team that's underowned, we want to be getting to. The problem, though, with that is that we also have the Texas Rangers as a team that looks like they're underowned and it's a spot we want to be getting to. And you could only pay up for so many of the offenses on this slate. So with that in mind, I'm leaning towards the Texas Rangers, a big ownership difference between the two of them. My hope is that you get this spot where the Rangers, obviously, my hope is that they outscore them. And at the very least, I'm just thinking long-term, if we play the slate out thousands and thousands of times, based on the ownership difference, I do think that the Rangers end up coming through relative to ownership more often than the Braves do, because unless the Braves outscore this team at a 10-1 clip, so for every 10 times you play this slate, the Rangers would have to fall short of the Braves, 9 out of those 10 times in order for this not to be the right ownership play. So big ownership gap between the two of them. The Rangers and the Braves are like the 2 most expensive offenses on the slate. It's a pivot I like getting to.
How many offenses are you getting to at least 10% as your primary stack?
Only 3. The Rangers, the Braves, and the Royals. Those are the only 3.
Okay, so the Royals are in that group for you as well. Interesting.
Only those 3, though.
Do you want to tell me about your love for the Royals?
So they're going up against Luis Ortiz, who has not been the best. And the other thing, too, when it comes to I just pulled up the page for the wrong Luis Ortiz, which is not all that hard to do. There's a lot of Luis Ortizes in baseball, as you might imagine. It's one of the more popular names, it looks like, of if you had to guess which name is most popular in baseball, what do you think it would be? Like, Luis Ortiz is probably up there, no?
Luis Ortiz, Luis Gonzalez. I don't know. Can't think of any current Luis Gonzalez, though. I know there have been some.
There's who's the I'm blanking. There's somebody, there's 4 of somebody in baseball right
now. Yeah, I can't think of who there would be 4 of in baseball right now. I'm like it's got to be like a JP Sears, JP France. That's
there aren't that many JP Frances in baseball.
You just made Jordan think, how many JPs are there? Just the conversation. He's like, I've never seen the name JP out in the real world, but somehow there's a bunch in. No, I get where Jordan came from there. I feel like it's got to be like a Jackson though, like Jackson Johnson Smith, like one of those kinds of names. I guess also Ortiz would be one of those names in baseball that is going to be common. Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of what would be. Okay.
I was stalling for some time because I had clicked on the wrong Luis Ortiz name on FanDuel.
I see.
But I have the correct one up now, and now I can look at these numbers more in depth and bring it to the people. So I've talked about the Royals as being a stack that I like getting to. It's kind of funny because, Adam goes away on vacation, and then I've kind of taken on the mantle of playing the Kansas City Royals in its place because I've been getting to a lot of Royals on a lot of slates as of late. It's a team that, just to echo a lot of things that I've said in recent weeks about Kansas City, they don't have a great real life offense, but for fantasy, when they do score runs, it's home runs, it's stolen base, it looks pretty favorable. And Ortiz is terrible. 5.37 ERA this year, 7.67 expected ERA, 6.1 FIP. It's very rare you see a pitcher that is a 5.37 ERA and you go, boy, he's benefited from a lot of good luck this year. And that's kind of what the scenario is. So given the fantasy upside of the Royals offense and how bad Luis Ortiz is as a pitcher, I do like getting to him. Something else to note as well is, if you get the Royals go out and score a bunch of runs, kind of something we talk about from time to time, you do have potential to get the added win bonus from Ragan. So there's a little bit of correlation there, and I'm playing a bunch of him. So typically the win bonus, not that it's like the end all be all for MLB DFS, particularly on DraftKings. It's a little more important on FanDuel, especially the quality start and win bonus combined. But at his price point, the win bonus does go a pretty long way. And I do like the Royals offense a good amount.
Are you getting too much? I'm just looking at my lineups on DraftKings, and I think I only see one that I have 40% Cole Reagans and a good amount of the Royals, but I think I only have one of that combo. I think just because generally in my Cole Reagans lineups, I'm paying up for some Braves. So I'm not getting to that combo as much. Are you playing Braves as a secondary stack in those Royals lineups where you have Cole Reagans?
Let's see. I mean, I assume so.
It would make sense.
By the way, there are a ton of Luis Garcias, right? We have 3 active Luis Garcias in the major leagues, and then it looks like there's another 4 of them in the minor leagues right now. So Luis Garcia, very, very popular name. That was shouted out in the YouTube chat by, who was it? Somebody brought up Luis Garcia because Luis Garcia. So CJ in the YouTube chat said it's Luis Garcia. Yeah, you're right. That's the one I was thinking of. Luis Garcia. Lots of Luis Garcias is.
Was Luis Gonzalez was the Diamondbacks legend, right?
Yeah.
I want to say Hall of Famer.
I don't think he ever tested positive for steroids, but I know what's up.
Yeah.
I mean everybody from that age, but that he was gigantic.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, though, everybody from that era, not everybody, but most players from that era were probably on roids. All right. So moving back to our stacks, any really low owned stacks you like today?
The Rangers. The Rangers qualify as being fairly low owned.
Yeah, 2%.
Yeah, let's see. Let's look at other what kind of number of ownership do you have in mind?
Let's say 5% or lower, because we are pretty spread out. Like outside of the Braves, say nobody's getting like crazy high ownership, but let's go for lineups that are under 5% owned.
I've already talked about them, but Royals and Rangers for me. Those are the only 2 teams that are sub 5% owned that I've significant exposure to. And like I said before, there's only 3 teams on the entire slate that I've double-digit exposure to. It's the Braves, it's the Royals, the Rangers. Of those 3 teams, 2 of them are pretty contrarian.
Yeah, no, I'm getting to both of those teams as well. I'm looking through my stacks now to see if any of them that I'm getting to have. I'm getting a little bit of San Francisco. I've got 12% San Francisco 5-man stacks. We talk about that a lot, how I'm never comfortable with that. Like we don't even have their lineup yet, and then we're gonna have the possibility of pinch hitting. So I don't love that I'm getting to so much of the Giants. Are you getting into any Giant stacks?
I'm not.
All right.
I have, out of 150 lineups, I have 2. So I'm gonna say that as a no.
I'm only playing 25 lineups, and I have 3 full 5-man San Francisco stacks, which surprised me a little bit.
So you have more than I do. By the way, we have a super chat from Chris Williams. He said, "You already know this is coming. Thanks for the great content. Hit the like button and watch the good karma come. Can you guys rank your favorite pitchers in order for the late slate on DK?" That is something I'm capable of doing. We also have some questions in Discord that we could answer before we wrap up here. Let's see. What is the late slate pitching options?
That's the other thing I love about hosting with Greg is that I know he's going to do the job anyway. So like I'm the in the host chair, but like Greg's doing all the stuff, looking up all the questions. All right. Pulling it up, the pitchers on the late slate. So we've got George Kirby, Clayton Kershaw, Alex Cobb, Merrill Kelly, Brandon Williamson, and Ken Waldachuk are the pitchers. Looks like we're getting to 68% ownership going to George Kirby. So that's the downside there.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with the chalk on the late slate, right? Between George Kirby and Alex Cobb, because Clayton Kershaw, I don't expect him to work especially deep into the game. If you look at his recent outings, they've been really conservative with his pitch count, which I think is to be expected this point in the season with Clayton Kershaw. The Dodgers are locked into a playoff spot. He's old. He's had lots of health issues, so they're being cautious with him. I think that really limits his upside. Where I think this gets interesting is, right, the two clear top options, George Kirby and Alex Cobb. The conversation to have, though, is if we want to be contrarian, where do we go? Because anybody beyond those two guys is fairly contrarian. I'm not going to say Kershaw, concerned about the pitch count. He's also, 30% owned. Not going to say Merrill Kelly because he's $9,100 on the road against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Another pitcher I'm concerned about the pitch count with, which leaves us with either Ken Waldachuk or Brandon Williamson as our contrarian option. Between the two of them, I'm going to go with Waldachuk. I mean, I think you could make a case to go overweight to both of them. But Waldachuk, I'm going to lean with on the road in Seattle. Seattle, at least over. I know they've been a really good offense as of late, but overall for the year, it is a team that has struck out a good amount against left-handed pitching. Ken Waldachuk, as much as he's been inconsistent as a young starting pitcher, he does have some strikeout upside, was a top-ranked prospect, at least heading into last year. So I'll go with Waldachuk as my favorite contrarian pitching option on the late slate, followed by Brandon Williamson.
Love it. All right. That was quick and easy. Got through those six pitchers. In my defense, as far as the premium Discord goes, they're not tagging me. They're only tagging you with these questions. True. So what I can't see them if I'm not being tagged in them.
Yeah. By the way, I'll rattle them off. We only got a few minutes.
Cool.
Make sure we answer all of them. Yep. We've got Ant8604 double dollar signs wants to know Burns or Steele. I do prefer Justin Steele to Corbin Burns to have more exposure to Steele. The other questions we have in here, Mr. Coolcam wants to know favorite contrarian stack on FanDuel. Same as DraftKings. I really like the Texas Rangers as a contrarian stack tonight. I think that is the team that makes the most sense for the most upside for the least amount of ownership. Only 2% owned today. So Texas Rangers. Einstein wants to know, do I have any exposure to Zach Thompson? Yes, but a minimal amount. He's in 4% of my lineup, Zach Thompson. He does have a fairly high strikeout rate this year, but he doesn't work deep into games. If I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head, he hasn't gone deeper than 5 innings in any single start this year. He also has somewhat of a tough matchup today, a tough matchup against the San Diego Padres. Pull up the game log for Zach Thompson to see how deep he's actually working in these games. And yeah, he's gone 5 innings in each of his last 2 starts, but those are the only 2 times all year that he's worked more than 5 innings. So I'm going to be not all that high on Zach Thompson. He's very low owned. So as a punt pitcher, like if you need to pay up for offense, you can make a case there, but not somebody that I'm getting to very much of, like I said, 4%. And then Tim Lee wants to know favorite one-offs, which I think this kind of plays well into the home run picks, does it not, Neil?
Sure does. Yeah. I happy to go straight to some one-offs. Do you want to answer any specific one-offs before we go straight to the home runs, or we can just, I can take a look real quick at some of the top point per dollar plays at each position. So we've got at catcher, Sean Murphy looks like a great one-off. Cal Raleigh looks like a good one-off. Adley Rutschman, Mitch Garver. If you're looking for some value at catcher, Reese McGuire, Bo Naylor, Austin Headley look pretty good. Do you have any one-offs that you are particularly getting to a good amount today that are unstacked, or you're getting to like more of than you're getting to stacks?
Also, to address Jordan Klein's question, the Discord channel wants to know if Neil and I plan to wear the same shirt today. You, sir, are mistaken because Neil's shirt is a way deeper V than mine.
Yeah, it's they are similar shirts. That is, I hadn't even noticed that we're wearing similar shirts, but yeah, this is really, really deep V, and I'll just to get even more different, I'll hold it down like this for you.
Yeah, Neil is somehow wearing a shirt that's too big and too small at the same time.
That's how I do. It's too big and too small in all the right places, Greg. That's always the goal.
Yeah, like they just ran out of fabric or something. If you combine Neil and Jordan's apparel together, you get one full shirt.
Yeah.
You get the sleeves, you get the collar. There, you combine it together and you're able to get one full shirt.
Yeah.
As far as my favorite one-offs, T-Lay, it's funny because like I have a bunch of these. So like it's hard for me to not answer the Rangers because these are players that I have a lot of exposure to individually. So like my most exposed hitter on this slate is Mitch Garver. I have him right around 30% of my lineups. The Rangers hitters I have the most of are Mitch Garver, Ezekiel Duran, and Adolis Garcia, and they are projected all for very low ownership. 0.9% for Garcia, his projected ownership. Duran, 2.4%, 6.7% for Mitch Garver. So I'll say those are overall my three favorite one-offs. As far as Atlanta hitters, if you want to play one of them as a one-off, the ones I get the most of from them are Acuna and Ozzy Albies.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, I think that it's time for some home run picks. I don't know if you have an advanced model like I do that you need to run through to give your home run pick. Are you already ready to do your home run pick? What do you think?
I'll do it right now.
Ooh, Greg's all ready. And you can't play anybody in Coors. Just remember, you can't play
Mitch Garver.
Mitch
He's my most
Garver.
rostered hitter on the entire slate. He's always crushed left-handed pitching. There was one year where Mitch Garver had like a 220 WRC plus against lefties. I think that was 3 years ago off the top of my head. He's got a matchup against a pitcher in Jose Quintana. Like I mentioned before, he only has a 2.2% home run to foul ball rate this year. One homer allowed the entire year. I don't buy into it. It's totally fluky. I think the Rangers had multiple homers off him today, and Mitch Garver is going to be one of them.
We have in the top batters, so we have Mitch Garver with a 21% chance of hitting a home run. Unfortunately, I can't go to any of the top 5 bats. The top 5 are all in Coors. They're all Braves bats. 7 of the top 8, all Braves bats for us today. But there is one beautiful light shining in the middle there of the home run model. That is, I'm going right back to him, went to him last night. Vladdy Daddy is going to hit a home run off Mackenzie Gore. Vlad Guerrero, we have with a 26% chance of hitting a home run tonight. So I like those odds. Actually, right. ours are both pretty similar, 21%, 26%. You even going with a chalk, you weren't too far off going just with your highest owned bat. All right, Greg, any final thoughts for the people?
No, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Football season starting up soon, and I've got some very exciting stuff to work on. Also, some stuff I'm about to talk with Neil about off camera after this, amongst the other activities we're going to do. Because I know some people might look at Neil and be like, boy, he's showing a lot of skin there. He's about to be showing even more.
Just wait till football season.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. If you haven't done it, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Bring us home here, Neil.
I was just gonna, you were doing it, you were closing this out. I was like, I guess I'm just gonna let it happen. Greg is gonna close this out for the show. But yes, I'll reiterate what Greg said. Please do like the video. I always forget throughout the show to ask for the likes. Please like the video if you haven't done so. It really does help us out quite a bit. Let's win some money. Good luck tonight.